Out of the gates, and we're ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network is underway. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. YouTube, full throttle. Here we go. You can join us in the chat. Chat will be there the entire show as usual. Dan Dakich will be here in 20 minutes. Plenty to get to there across the NBA and with golf, and we'll do just that with George Savaricas of the Golf Channel and ESPN. That's coming up later in today's show. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Excited about today's show. Excited about the weekend, and we got a big week ahead, which I know is going to move faster than last week moved for us. I can feel it right now.
Same.
It's going to fly by.
Same. Before we get to the quitters, the Boston Celtics last night, how about the PGA Championship? And for as great as Brooks Koepka is and became, because he went into a legendary status with his 5th major yesterday. Mike Block is remembered forever. Not just, it starts with the fact that he's a country club pro who never expected to make the cut. He's played in this event 4 times prior. This is his 5th PGA Championship that he's qualified for. He's one of the 20 of the pros who get to play in the field. Had a flight booked back home from New York to California Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And then he shot back-to-back 70s. Not only made the cut, was paired with Rory McIlroy for the final round. The night before the final round, he's at the pub hanging out like he normally would. Business as usual, as a country club pro would do, right? Talking range lessons that he's got to give on Monday. Except he became legendary. Chasing the leader, saying he belonged, and then he hit a hole-in-one on 15 where, it was a swish. Didn't even hit the flagstick. And from that point on, he won the tournament. For me, not just the best shot of the tournament, best shot of the year. How can we overlook the fact that a country club pro just went and did that? For as difficult as it is, or as easy as it may seem, honestly, where you can play a great round. This guy had a great weekend, great week at Oak Hill, and became synonymous for what all of us believe we could do. I'm not raising my hand saying I could, but the country club pros across the country are thinking, man, I would kill to be able to do that. And he was able to pull it off and did it shot for shot with Rory McIlroy. Chad, it was phenomenal. He's already received an invite to the Colonial as an exemption for this coming week, starting on Thursday. 45,000 people in attendance, giving him a huge ovation. He's got Jim Nantz calling the hole-in-one on 15. He's mic'd up on Friday and Saturday's coverage of the PGA Championship. And, oh, by the way, Brooks Koepka wins another major, and Michael Block steals the show.
There is an everyman quality about golf that you can't find in a lot of other sports, where guys look like every other man at times, like our old friend Mike Block. Looks like our buddy Josh Castile when I saw him. He looks like our buddy out there hitting a hole-in-one and playing so well at a PGA Championship as a club pro that he gets an invite to the Colonial the following week. Really cool story. Mike Block also sounds like the name that you would come up with if you were in a comedy, if someone put you on the spot and you came up with a fake name.
Yeah.
And you just, what's your name? Mike Block? That sounds like something you'd come up with on the spot. Really good story. This is what it's all about. The PGA Championship has delivered some great drama in recent years, from Phil Mickelson being the oldest player ever to win a major championship, Brooks Koepka multiple times. You had Colin Morikawa with the walk-off a few years ago also. This has been a terrific tournament for drama. This is clearly the 4th major, oftentimes the forgotten major, but it's delivered some unforgettable moments in recent years. Michael Block with that hole-in-one, and Brooks Koepka on the comeback. If you watch that Netflix documentary Full Swing and you see how Brooks Koepka was deep into self-doubt when he decided to make the jump to LIV Tour, thinking he may never get it back. All the injuries, the bad putting, well, he is very much back. 2nd place finish, the Masters, wins the PGA Championship. He is entering, it looks like, Hutton, another spot in his career where he could possibly go on a bit of a tear right now with the way he's playing.
Well, so 4 majors is historically elite when you look at the numbers. and the names involved. 5, talking with a PGA pro recently, 5 puts you in a mental toughness and an emotional stability category that others just can't reach. And that's Brooks Koepka. And I was thinking back to the Netflix series where he's in shambles. You know, he doesn't know if he's going to get back to where he was. That's due in large part to why he joined the Live Tour. At least that's what people were throwing out there. I mean, the money is certainly there too. But Chad, I mean, this guy, when you compare him to where he was in April, in April, a month ago for the Masters, he entered Sunday with a 1-shot lead at Augusta on the final round, and he entered yesterday with a 1-shot lead, a 2-shot lead at Augusta, I believe.
Yeah.
Ends up losing, said he choked, said, I'm not going to make the same mistakes again, I'm going to learn from this. Entered with a 1-shot lead yesterday, then birdied, 4 of the first 5 holes, 3 of the first 4.
He delivered on learning from that Masters experience.
And then dominated the 16th hole. And that's all she wrote. Brooks Koepka goes down in history and joins guys like Seve and Mickelson and Byron Nelson, Thompson, and others. I mean, I thought about Jordan Spieth. This is a good example of what Spieth can then turn around and do, right? Because he's in a bit of a lull. He's banged up.
I think he's in a big-time lull. The other one is Rory McIlroy. He passes Rory. Rory with 4 major championships in his career. Now, he's got a bunch more tour titles over the course of, non-majors in his career. But Rory, the numbers were great in his first 30, 40 starts at majors and have really tailed off. It's been no championships in a long time. And Brooks Koepka, I know Mark Harris at OutKick is writing that he's passed Rory. Says people aren't going to want to believe that because Rory has other championships, but you were defined and measured by major championships. And Brooks Koepka, in a way shorter amount of time, has 1 more major championship than Rory McIlroy. And that's tough for people to envision because Rory is a fan favorite on tour. He was the vocal leader of everyone against Live Tour. He was the defender of all things PGA. And here's Brooks Koepka going off to Live, where everyone thought that was your death march out of your career, just taking the bag and running, and you're never going to compete for major championships again. No problem for Brooks Koepka. He doesn't need the competition of the PGA Tour to be great in majors. He's showing that right now. I think that defies a lot of people's logic in regards to Live Tour and what that means about your career if you go and take the money and play on that tour.
For a handful of players. But first and foremost, Brooks Koepka. DeChambeau played well in this tournament, too. Let's also mention that. And not only did Koepka pass Rory, he passes the New York Jets and the New York Mets in total championships in the state of New York. That's his 3rd championship, 3rd major won in New York. So he's got something going there in NY.
That's got to be tough for New Yorkers to stomach, seeing that a Floridian in Brooks Koepka has more championships than 2 of your beloved teams.
And, oh, by the way, Mike Block rose 3,000 spots in the world rankings.
Can we discuss the physics of that hole-in-one? In that I don't understand how the ball doesn't bounce out or at least bounce up to where you see it.
It's almost like it got pinned between the flag stick and the hole, but it hit the hole perfectly because they had to fix the cup.
Yeah, but from that distance to
151,
clank a ball into the bottom of the cup and not have any reverb to bounce up, or you couldn't even see the flag really move. No. It just disappeared.
It was a swish.
I mean, it was there and then it was gone. I'm amazed. We need the who's Brinkus, the science guy, to come on and explain
the odds of that.
How a ball could do that and give us the flight and everything else where it doesn't bounce back, move the flag stick, anything. It just disappears.
So you hit a hole-in-one, you're supposed to buy a round for the clubhouse, right? Maybe he ends up doing that yesterday for some of the guys. He's never going to have to do that again, though, ever. He's never going to have to buy drinks again at any golf course he shows up at.
How many people, here's the side story I want to see written. How many people called his club in Mission Viejo, California, wanting to get lessons from him?
Did you see the promo?
Wanting to either join that club
from 10 years ago
or take lessons from Block.
They on purpose, like tongue-in-cheek, cheesy promo?
It was pretty bad. But I do want to know how many people now are flocking. If I lived in that area and I want to be better at golf, I'd probably flock to that course, that club, to get lessons from him, this newfound celebrity.
If you're Live Tour, do you call him?
That's a good question. You don't pay him the way you are some of the other stars, but I mean, maybe.
They print money.
What if he instead of going to the Colonial after that teary acceptance call? So actually, the Live Tour's got something in
Dubai.
In Dubai this week. I'm gonna take that instead. I'll be missing out on the Colonial.
I'm headed with Koepka to Dubai.
Yeah. I'm on the PJ with Koepka and DeChambeau headed back to the Middle East. I'll be in that tournament.
Chad, the Boston Celtics won't be headed to the Middle East, but they're headed to Cabo or somewhere other than South Beach because at the end of the first quarter last night, it was game over to the point where everyone there are some cases where you don't really know if a team quit or not. This is definitive. The Boston Celtics quit in front of America last night against the Miami Heat.
It was an embarrassment yesterday, and it started on Friday night. I'm watching this game. A lot of America's watching this game. The Celtics go up 9 points on a three-pointer from seldom used Grant Williams, who's completely lost his role with the team coming off the bench. He's been averaging 4.7 points per game in these playoffs. And I don't know if it's frustration for losing his spot in the rotation or what. The emotion getting the best of him. I don't know what it is.
There's something up there.
This is twice now we've seen an example of someone that should not be poking the bear and having not just their hand bitten, but all of their limbs ripped from their body after doing so. First, it was Dillon Brooks and LeBron James, who had a big part in the Grizzlies losing that series. And now, suddenly, the Grizzlies aren't even willing to discuss the possibility of Dillon Brooks coming back to that team. I don't think Grant Williams is going to be back as a Boston Celtic after this, quite frankly. Some may find that extreme. I don't. It was stupid what he did. And I love Grant Williams. Loved him as a player in the SEC at Tennessee. But you do not go after playoff Jimmy when you are Grant Williams. There is a belief in sports that the teams that excel the most have players that know, understand, and play their roles. You are averaging 4.7 points in the playoffs. You are being asked to guard the current best player in the playoffs. This is the best playoff player in basketball right now. It's a matchup that's not good for you to begin with. What you don't do is get open for a three, hit it, and then jaw at that player the whole way down the court to where he starts laughing immediately at you talking trash to him and goes down the other end and gets an and one on you, goes nose to nose with you, and then proceeds to completely discombobulate you and your entire organization. Grant Williams probably won't be back with the Celtics after this display. It was dumb. You need to know your role in sports. I don't like it. I found it entertaining in the moment, and I also thought to myself, boy, probably not the smartest thing to do to rile up Jimmy Butler when you're already down 0-1 in the series at home, and now look what happened. You're down 0-3, and you rest your starters in the fourth quarter of a blowout game down in Miami. The Celtics, with a great Game 7 performance a week ago against the 76ers, that feels like 10 years ago right now, the way this series is going against the Heat. Heat culture have all but evaporated a Boston franchise that should have all the culture in the world with a team and a franchise built on success. What an embarrassment for the Celtics in this series. And Grant Williams played a big part in that in his small role with the Celtics.
Chad, you know what else is going to feel like 10 years? The wait for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Because both of these series now are 3-0. Nuggets leading the Lakers, a chance to close them out tonight. And, of course, we've already seen the Boston Celtics not just wave the white flag, but came out with their hands in the air saying, cuff me, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And that was Game 3. They acted like that was a Game 4. They were down 0-3 last night. Point being, I think it's two different types of sweeps because I think the Lakers can play their best and Denver's still going to win. I think that's evident based on what we've seen. And in the case of Boston, I don't know how you rebound from that after last night, even though Miami, for the first time in the postseason, I believe, is an actual Vegas favored by 1.5 tomorrow night. But here's what's going to feel like 10 years. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is on Thursday, June 1st. That is a week from this Thursday. And if you have back-to-back sweeps, that's ABC and ESPN wanting June 1st to when they start, because Game 7 would be June 18th, potentially. that is going to feel like pure misery waiting on game one of Miami and Denver if, in fact, we get the back-to-back sweeps. And that's never happened, by the way, in NBA history, where both the Eastern and Western Conference finals have both ended in sweeps.
Gosh, that would be an eternity to wait for that.
You need one of these two teams to do something.
Well, I mean, at some point you risk people. Does it build excitement, or is it the risk more of people forget that you're still playing when you take that long off in between series?
Well, they wouldn't if it was Boston and L.A.
Well, there'd be a big buildup.
But what about Denver, Miami this year?
I don't know that it would. I mean, they could start
the same. It's still the finals.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? They could start a day later, and it may not matter based on the teams playing in it, even if it was Celtics, Lakers. But we'll find out, because it looks like right now we've got possibly I would put the money more on a clean sweep on both sides than either one of these teams being the first ever NBA team to come back from 3-0 to win a series. We got the YouTube chat asking if one of these teams could make history with that and this, and I have not seen a bit of that from either of these Lakers or Celtics teams to see that.
Way too inconsistent.
Yeah.
And Denver, their role players and their star players are just great. I mean, they're the best team.
And LeBron's starting to look old and hurt, which he is. And I mean, it's natural. He's looking old and hurt now.
But the guy that's got to carry them is not carrying them every game in Anthony Davis. Dan Dakich is about to join us. We will ask him about the Celtics' performance. Also, Miami coming from the 8th seed. The fact that we have a head coach trying to take the fall in the NBA for these guys not being ready to come out and play well in Game 3, down 0-2 to Miami. Dan weighs in on that, plus Jokic and Jim Irsay commenting on his top 5 players of all time, and it doesn't include a quarterback that was a Hall of Famer for him, but does include a quarterback who didn't want to play for the Indianapolis franchise. That's next on Hot Mic.
So let's see the video that Jon Morant was dumb enough to have posted. A guy said this: Jon Morant has more money to go anywhere in the world, and he chooses to go to Instagram Live. Now, Jon Morant is a fool. We know Jon Morant is a fool. It was two fools sitting down, Jalen Rose and Jon Morant, for a ridiculously idiotic fake interview a few months ago, all right? So Jon Morant does what every NBA player does. He hangs out. There's always a little guy. Usually it's a little white guy. But watch this video. Jon Morant's going to flash a gun. All right, you're that stupid, fine. But watch the little idiot driving the car as you watch the video that ultimately is going to cost Jon Morant a ton of money. We can't believe he's any dumber than he is. He's already the dumbest dude walking except for Dwight Howard, and we'll get into that. But watch this video. There they are. Look at this idiot right here. He's looking around like, hey, am I cool? Oh, he's dancing like a little, so Jon Morant's trying. Jon Morant looks like a girl. I hate to say it, but he does. Look at it. I mean, he flashes a gun, and then they put the thing down. Now it's been deleted. But, I mean, his little buddies look like, I don't know. They kind of look like the Bengals back in. Look at this little guy. There's always a little punk like that hanging out with a star. There's always a little punk. Shaq had a little white guy. I remember when we were filming Blue Chips. Everybody usually has a little white guy. But I'm telling you, this dude is about as hard as this cup of coffee. There ain't nothing hard. He looks like a girl. Seriously, if I were advising Jon Morant, you know what I would tell him? Cut your hair and get serious about your craft. Just change everything about you. Seriously. Just change everything about you. You're a great player. You're a great talent. You have a great family, although those people have lost their mind as well, his family. But I'd tell you, get serious about your craft. Put your life into your craft. Forget about the other crap. Cut your hair, change your look, change your thing, change everything about you, or grow your hair longer. I don't care. But what I usually used to tell people, and I know I'm the old guy, but it always works, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. I've told guys in business, cut your hair, get serious about your craft. Now, well, that's racist. Hey, what does hair have to do with it? No, it just means that you're changing up what you are doing. It means you are getting serious about what you should be serious about. Because let's be honest, this guy's career could be over. I don't know. You get playing with a gun, next thing you know, you could end up in jail, career could be over. So get serious about the one thing that works the most. Did you ever see Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Karl Malone, John Stockton, Barkley? Did you ever see him with, like, I don't know, something to distract? You never did. Do you ever see LeBron James with something to distract? No. LeBron James serious about his craft. He's not out there trying to put purple in his hair, or put green in his hair, or make his hair look like my mother's back in the 1970s where you had the beehive going like Morant. No, you never saw that. Of course you don't. I'm serious, you don't. You know, the girl that comes in the office with purple hair is never the leading seller in the office. It's just, she's just not. The guy that comes in with all of a sudden a face tattoo is not the leading producer in the company. He just never is. People that are serious about their craft get things done. People that know and understand, hey, look, we got to get this done. And if I'm Jon Morant, you can play kid, you can play tough guy, you can play a little child, you can play try to look like a girl, I don't know. You can have all that feminine energy that Jon Morant has off the court and your little effeminate friends off the court, but it's a man's league.
Coming up, we've got the NFL, according to a report, doing more investigating on gambling accusations within their league. We've got that, plus a vote that could potentially affect your team this upcoming fall across the National Football League. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Dan Dakich joins us. You can check him out across the OutKick network each morning. Don't at me with Dan Dakich right here on this very YouTube page and beyond. Dan, good to see you, man. And, man, what a weekend. We've got PGA Championship storylines from Koepka and a PGA Pro for country clubs everywhere. And then we've got storylines like we did last night in the NBA where guys are quitting right in front of us. Hope you're doing well. Hope the weekend was good.
My weekend was spent at the University of Arkansas watching the ladies of Harvard softball get beat twice, but that's all right. They played their brains out. They just pitched to the wrong gal, and she had a 3-run home run for Notre Dame. But I got to say this, never been to the University of Arkansas. Pretty nice place, incredible place, and, of course, Bentonville, where the Waltons are. Everything's brand new there and really nice. So Bentonville, Arkansas, I salute you.
Dan, whenever you moved in your chair, you messed up your mic somehow. So just pull that back up.
Pull the mic back up, and then we'll
above
be
Elon
good to go.
Phoenix, if you don't mind. Just looking at your.
You know.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I got the Elon, not Elon Musk. I got the Elon Phoenix here. I'm representing.
Although
and
Elon Musk could buy the school,
to,
I'm sure, if he wanted.
I would believe so, although they have a very, very nice inn. I got to give my son props. Duncan Robinson yesterday dropped 22. Andrew, who coaches at Illinois State, used to coach for the Phoenix, worked him out day before. And next thing you know, Robinson, they worked on a lot of dribble moves. Robinson getting to the rim. So he kept my son there, paid for him to stay another night, called the coach at Illinois State, said, look, we're not screwing this up. He's got to work me out before Game 4, so I'm going to give my son, who coached at Elon and now is at Illinois State, a lot of credit. He and Robinson were college roommates, best of friends, that kind of deal. So there you go.
Dan Dakich with us, host of Don't At Me. Jim Boeheim will be his guest tomorrow, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, right here across the OutKick network. Dan, an NBA team quitting at this stage of the postseason. You have a head coach going to the podium down 0-3 after a blowout, pathetic loss on the road, showing no energy, no emotion, no heart, and taking the blame, saying he didn't have his team ready. What do you make of the decision for Joe Mazzulla to do that?
Stupid. Very, very stupid. I did it once. I did it one time. As the interim coach at Indiana, we were 2-0, went to Michigan State. Senior night, they made all their threes. We got blown out. And I very stupidly said, yeah, I didn't have them ready. No, you don't do that because everybody's going to blame you anyway. Everybody's going to blame the coach. And, you know, Jason Tatum's making $30 million. I don't know. Maybe he should get himself ready. $26 million is what Jaylen Brown's making. I don't know. Maybe you should get yourself ready. $22 million is what Brogdon's making. And we here in Indianapolis had enough of Brogdon. And we know what he is about, which isn't much. So, look, don't do that as a coach. It sounds good, but players don't care whether you blame yourself. It's not like you're ingraining yourself to the players. Players always look at kindness as weakness, particularly when it's their fault. They're not looking at it like, oh, coach really has our back. Yeah, okay. Sure they are. No, they're not. I promise you that. You know what? You're paid a lot of money to play in big moments. I mean, I don't think guys are paying that kind of money to show up, I don't know, on a Wednesday in January. Jason Tatum no-showed it. They quit. Horford's making $26 million. He's been in the league since I was in college. He should know better. It was a miserable performance. But you know what? I think we're focusing too much, or at least I was, I can't speak for you guys, on the quitting of the Celtics. Some point you got to give great credit to the ball movement, the unselfishness, the connection that all those guys with the Miami Heat, Spoelstra, and the entire crew have, because it's special to watch. It really is. And it's not just Jimmy Butler, man. Everybody's involved.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about that Heat culture that we keep hearing so much about, led by Eric Spoelstra, and what they've been able to do. But first, I want to ask more about the Celtics' failure, specifically Grant Williams. Grant Williams averaging 4.7 points per game in the playoffs, hits a three, decides to jaw with Jimmy Butler, and the Celtics were up 9 in the fourth quarter, and that leads to Jimmy Butler just taking over the game and mouthing at Williams and anyone else who will listen the rest of the time. What does that say, Dan, about knowing your role in this game and knowing when to pounce and when to shut up?
Yeah, you got to know your role, and your role includes locker room. Your role includes leadership. Your role includes who to talk to and who not to. Look, I'm sure there are some guys in the league that you can, as Grant Williams, bark at. You got momentum, and nothing's going to happen. But if you don't know by now that playoff Jimmy isn't one of those guys, you're out of your freaking mind. And Grant Williams, nobody's going to say it publicly. You know, nobody on the team is going to say it. Everybody's going to toe the company line. But the fact of the matter is, were I a teammate of Grant Williams, I'd be pissed, because here's the deal. You did have it going on. You did. You were rolling. You were rolling by balling. You weren't rolling by talking. You weren't rolling by engaging. And all of a sudden you do. And Butler's the wrong guy. Now, look, all you got to do, maybe all right, maybe it is other things, but all you got to do is look at what has happened since then. Big comeback, lose game 2 because of it, or maybe because of it, but you certainly lost game 2 after it. And then you get blown out. There's something going on there. The blowout that happened yesterday, I didn't really hit on this enough on my show. The blowout that happened yesterday tells me there is a bigger issue there with the Celtics. Like, I won't be surprised. Watch if this happens in Game 4. The Celtics play well for about 2.5 quarters, and then they go away. That's when a team is disconnected. Everybody's going to try at first. But when tough things come, they go away. I don't even know if they tried to start with, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that. If what I just said happens, get off to a decent start, maybe up by halftime, but there's a point in the middle of the third quarter or whenever that they just go away and lose by double digits, that's when I got to seriously consider getting rid of players. Because getting rid of a coach ain't going to get it done. You're going to have to figure out your players because that would be a broken team. That's what I'm watching for Game 4.
Dan, Eric Spoelstra is one of the few coaches I point to that have true power in the NBA, that lead a team. How would you describe him? How would you describe Heat culture and what he tries to build within that organization with Pat Riley also with what you've seen so far in these playoffs?
I would describe it as smart. I mean, and unencumbered by stupidity. Look, they eliminate the stupidity for the most part before they leave training camp, meaning we're going to put guys on this team that fit into our deal. They got to be talented enough, there's no question, but we're going to put guys in that fit into our deal, meaning we're going to coach them. And Pat Riley's whole slogan about culture involves being the nastiest, the toughest, the most coachable, the best in shape, the hardest working at our game. Well, there's a lot of NBA guys that reach a certain level and they don't want to do that anymore. Well, the Heat have found guys. I did not ever hear, not one time in my working in college basketball, did I ever hear the name Gabe Vincent. I never heard that name until he went to the NBA. In fact, the only reason I know he went to Cal Santa Barbara is because my son's girlfriend played soccer at Cal Santa Barbara, and she said he was a really nice guy. I did hear about the Martin kid. He and his brother led Nevada to the Final Four. Cody Zeller looks like that old man from the 70s. He's like Greg Kite out there, even though he was like a third or fifth pick in the draft, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I said this at the time. I said this, and I'm sure I'm wrong, but when Tyler Hero went out, I said the number one guy you could afford to lose is Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero to me, just to me, seems like a me, I kind of I want to be something I'm not guy. Now, he fits in fine, don't get me wrong, but they were 8th, if you remember, in the division or in the conference with Tyler Hero playing. Now, just remember that. He's the one guy. So now you paid Duncan Robinson $90 million for crying out loud a couple years ago. The dude is fearless. And, all right, you plug him in, and you're actually much better. This Heat team, if you played with this Heat team right now over the course of a season, it would be the number 1 seed. But with Tyler Hero, they were the 8th seed. Losing him helped that team. I don't care what anybody tells me.
You taking them over Denver?
I am Serbian. Nikola Jokic is my Serbian brother. Hell no. No. He's going to drink Šljivo. We're going to be doing the chicken dance, and Serbians are going to get their first title. At least I think it's their first title. Maybe Pete Maravich went to the Celtics and they won a title. I'm talking about they're leading, it's all R, leading the world. You know, and Jokic, I'm taking him. But I like Jamal Murray more. If I'm a Kentucky fan, I got to be sitting there going, what the hell? Look at all these guys that play great. Well, I mean, jeez.
There's enough of them out there.
How are we not in the Final Four? God dang, Chad. It's like, and not only are they playing well, they're monsters. Like Jamal Murray's a monster. Devin Booker's a monster. Bam Adebayo's a monster, for crying out loud. I love Cal. But, man, oh, man, Tyrese Maxey, monster during the playoffs. It's unbelievable that I guess they've had a bunch of success. I know it's unfair, but damn.
Darko Milicic, by the way, the first Serbian to win an NBA
And Dan
final.
also just taught me that the chicken dance was Serbian. I didn't know that was a Serbian thing until now.
No, I don't know if it is or isn't, but what I do know is every time I went to St. Sava Serbian Hall for either a party, a festival, or a wedding, it was always, you know, you know, so I just brought it in. But Šljivovic, if you ever want to have a night, which we're too old now, where you lose, David Faraday said on my show today that he lost 48 hours after he won the Scottish Open hanging with Led Zeppelin. You don't have to hang with Led Zeppelin. Just go get yourself a bottle of Šljivovic. It's Serbian plum brandy, and you will lose time. You will not know where you are. You will fall down. You will have one of the great nights of your life, but you won't remember any of it. We call it Serbian Bam Bam. Don't get into the Serbian Bam Bam.
It sounds like an Aaron Rodgers weekend, is what you're describing.
We took some ayahuasca and some Serbian Bam Bam on our retreat, our isolation retreat.
Dan Dakich with us on Hot Mic. How about Michael Block? Well, we're just the hole-in-one on 15, shot of the season of the year so far in the PGA, and just knowing the impact of everyone across the country that's in that line of work, thousands upon thousands of people that work at golf courses seeing that, members at country clubs seeing that, never actually imagining that it could actually be real, and then they see him do it. That's incredible.
You know, I read something, or maybe they said it on the air, that he only hits like a bucket of balls a week. Look, here's the most amazing thing to me, and you guys have followed sports and been around sports your whole life. You'll understand this. It's one thing if Michael Block, a club pro in the PGA, gets a hole-in-one on Thursday, and everybody goes, oh, look, isn't this a great story? But Michael Block got a hole-in-one, as rare as a hole-in-one is. He got a hole-in-one with the whole world paying attention to him in the final round. Now, you can argue whether there's a higher being. I personally believe in God. I believe in heaven and hell. I'm Catholic. I got Catholic guilt. I got the whole deal. But you can't, there's something bigger here when the dude hits, boom, into the cup, tears the cup up. It's a hole-in-one in the biggest stage, in the biggest moment, and he's the biggest star at the time. It's too much. It's unbelievable. Good for him. Play next week. I will bet you that he shoots closer to 80 than he does 70 in the first round next week. But who cares, right? Let's go, Michael Block.
Jim Boeheim on your show tomorrow. Don't at me, Dan. What are you most looking forward to getting into with Jim Boeheim? I'm fascinated by this conversation and interview you're about to have, given everything that's happened here recently.
Well, I want to see how he's handling retirement. I mean, look, a lot of guys, Bear Bryant died right after he retired. And I would argue that, all of a sudden lung cancer got Joe Paterno after the whole scandal and retirement. I want to see how he's handling it. I also want to talk to him about Carmelo Anthony. Fellas, I don't know about you, but I thought Carmelo Anthony had retired, right?
I did too.
I don't know, where the hell was he this year? Right. And, one of the most amazing things about Syracuse and Jim Boeheim is Carmelo Anthony. He was only there a year, but for whatever the reason, they won a championship, and that's the reason. But he loved Syracuse so much, their practice facility is called the Carmelo Anthony Center, and it's not one of those deals where they just named it after him. He gave the money for it. I mean, it is a unbelievably great relationship that only really was there a year. So I'm anxious to hear from him on that. Jim's always very outspoken. I want to hear what he thinks of what's going on with the NCAA, the transfer portal, what's happening there. But mostly I want to see his thoughts on the NBA playoffs, because he is the one head coach that I've ever met that is totally, completely engrossed in all levels of basketball. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He loves it like nobody that I know, so he's watching every minute. I want to see what he's up to in retirement, and I got to find out about Anthony and their relationship.
Jim Boeheim on with Dan Dakich. Don't at me tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, so an hour into the show. Dan, Jim Irsay, we're going to hear a lot from him this week.
Speaking of outspoken Jims, from one to another.
I love his honesty. He's given an honest reaction to the greatest players in NFL history based on the passing of Jim Brown, and he tweets out his top 5 players. And I'm curious how this is going down in Indy, because Irsay goes with Jim Brown, Tom Brady, John Elway, Deacon Jones, and Reggie White in that order. Now, of course, he doesn't have Peyton Manning listed, and he lists John Elway, which is peculiar, not just because Elway doesn't come to mind for many people in the top 5 of all time, but Elway refused to play for the Colts. And I mean, that's also interesting in and of itself. And here's Irsay putting him number 3, and Manning's not even listed.
I have a friend who was with the Colts for a long, long, long time. And when he speaks to me about the Colts, I didn't see this. He sent it to me. And then underneath, he said, this is 100% about number 18 winning just one Super Bowl in Indy, and the owner passively aggressively rubbing his face in it. It is petulance personified. So I tweeted that out. I said, hey, can I tweet that out? He goes, yeah, but don't use me. So I tweeted it out as my own, caught some blowback on it. But, it is amazing, to your point. Think about who he puts up there in front of Peyton Manning. Like, I remember Deacon Jones. It was great. The fearsome foursome. He was fantastic. Reggie White, I'm sure, was great. But let's be honest, John Elway in there when they made a 30 for 30 on why he did not come to Baltimore to play for his dad back in the day. Right. Are you kidding me? I think it's a shot. I don't care what anybody says. I got a couple guys here with the Colts, or actually one of the play-by-play guy of the Pacers. Oh, that's crap. Guys are, no, that's crap. No, it's not. I believe this. He does, then he puts Peyton in there or whatever he does. I think it's an absolute shot by Jimmy Irsay. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think everybody within the Colts organization felt that way. And to your point, you asked me about Indy. People are stunned because whether you like Jim or you don't, or you think he's this, you think he's that, that's a loyal dude to his players. He's done so many things to help former players, whether it's help with their kids, educations, health, whatever it is. And this is a guy that gave $24 million to Andrew Luck after Andrew Luck went away and he didn't have to. So I got to tell you, it's stunning to all of us here at Indy. It's a little bit disappointing to many, many people that Irsay would be that way, but I swear to you, to people that know and around the Colts, they think it's a direct shot right at Peyton Manning. Final minute here. Is the Brandon Miller reports that he's not impressing scouts and that teams are backing away from him,
and that he's out of shape,
is that a smokescreen to try to get him to fall to someone that's beyond pick 2 or 3, or is it legit and they're looking for a reason to not draft him based on what happened at Bama? I think there's a little bit of both. I think some teams are looking at not drafting him. I think some teams are looking to draft him and wouldn't mind going down. Look, here's the deal. You guys know this better than anybody. They draft 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds in the NBA. Talent always prevails in the NBA. It just does. Brandon Miller, the one interesting thing, though, is that is on top of the obvious gun, bringing the gun, allegedly, whatever they did. So it does give you a little bit of pause. But you know what? Potential reigns in the NBA, period, over accomplishment. So I'm just telling you, whatever anybody wants to write, that's great. I think Brandon Miller is going to be the first college basketball player drafted. It'll either be number 3, number 4, number 2. It's not going to be number 1, probably not number 2. It'll be 3 or 4. I don't care what anybody writes, unless he does something else stupid. Don't At Me with Dan Dakich tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. Jim Boeheim on at 10. Dan, thank you so much, man. We'll catch up soon. You guys are awesome. Great stuff today, Jonathan. Thanks, my guy. See you.
You're the man, Dan. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Dan Dakich.
Great sign from Dan's wife. So Dan's stepdaughter plays for Harvard, and they're in the NCAA tournament in Arkansas, in Fayetteville. And I saw that he posted a picture of his wife with the Harvard parents that had a sign that said, highest GPA in college softball. And then it said, school, it just means more. And with a Harvard logo with going up against the SEC, which I found very clever. Well done by them.
Scoring that victory.
Yes.
Coming up, another female athlete is denied and robbed of athletic achievement. Plus, biggest underdog right now in the NFL. We'll tell you which franchise. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back, and if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Coming up, the NFL's investigating more gambling violations, and Al Michaels says he's not going to sugarcoat bad NFL scheduling when it comes to Thursday Night Football. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, Adeline Johnson finished 4th in the qualifying for state track. State meets are this coming weekend in California, and missed the state invite and the qualifier by 1 spot because Athena Ryan, a transgender male, now claiming to be female, but a biological male, finished 2nd by running the 1,600-meter race, which is a mile, the mile race in 4 minutes, 55 seconds, and, a couple tenths, right? That is nearly 9 seconds slower than the last place finisher in the boys' meet, which also took place in the prelims. And she finished 2nd in this. Athena Ryan does. The biological male finished 2nd in this, which was a season record for Ryan. But meanwhile, Adeline Johnson doesn't get to go to state based on who was able to take the podium.
I'm willing to bet that kid's parents don't even cheer that outcome. Does anyone cheer?
Well, based
when
on
when a man beats women in an event that's designed for
Amber
women,
Harding's story at
if you're the
OutKick,
parents of that kid, are you doing a standing ovation? There you go, son. Good job. Way to beat those girls out there. I mean, I'm being serious. If that's my kid, I'm sitting on my hands. And I'm uncomfortable that they're competing and knocking women out of the next round of the tournament.
There's a group of advocates that were holding up the banner that said "Save Women's Sports," and they were asked to leave, or "Protect Women's Sports" is what it said.
What a weird,
again, California.
Weird world we're in right now with
California.
all this.
Take one guess on who the biggest underdog is in the NFL.
I'm going to say it's the one with the shortest starting quarterback.
Is he the shortest?
He's got to be shorter than Bryce Young.
Bryce
Young's the only other contender, and I think he's shorter.
Bryce Young is 5'10".
I want to say he's like
official at the combine.
5'10", 5'9".
Okay, Kyler Murray. Yes, Kyler Murray.
Good, I was right.
Kyler Murray's not even the starting quarterback right now because he's hurt. Tore his ACL late in the season, and now the Arizona Cardinals not favored in any game right now on any sports book out in Las Vegas, for good reason. I mean, beyond just Kyler Murray, they weren't good with him. Now they have a new head coach in Jonathan Gannon, clearly in rebuild mode. And it's also safe to assume that with all the picks that they have, Caleb Williams is on the docket for Arizona. They may not even have to actually try and tank at the end of the season, Chad, even when Kyler Murray is healthy enough to play. This may be the big benefit of just being a terrible team at the right time, a la Indianapolis whenever they got Andrew Luck.
This is going to be what I enjoy, the legitimate awful team. Guys, we are giving our best out there every single week. We are taking the Hippocratic Oath of Sports I always talk about. Do no harm, do your best, try to win. We just can't win because we're not any good, and we're going to back our way into Caleb Williams or Drake May, a top quarterback, and then our franchise will be better.
The NFL, the owners' meeting's going on right now. The NFL has approved the addition. They're going back to the emergency quarterback rule, which was in place years ago, like 11 or 12 years ago, where you can elevate a quarterback, not from your practice squad, but from your active roster, who is inactive for the game. So of your 45 or 46-man active roster on game day, from your 53-man roster, your third quarterback can be your emergency QB. This is due in large part to what we saw happen to San Francisco. They deem this integrity of the game, of the sport, as to why they passed this today in their first big official vote that got ownership approval. But here are the clarifications. I think there was some confusion. You can't carry your third quarterback on a practice squad and then elevate him on game day, which, I mean, you can, but your elevated players, which go back and forth each week, those quarterbacks would not be eligible for the emergency QB status. You can only play that player, that quarterback. They're very specific about it. It can't be a wildcat scenario. If both quarterbacks ahead of him are injured, if the medical staff deems one of them eligible to return, they must return, and the player can't play a different position. He's got to go back to the bench. But this will help out a playoff team late in the year where it's not going to affect the overall outcome and you feel like they have zero shot, or you're playing a quarterback like they did with Brock Purdy, who can't throw the football because his elbow's jacked up.
Yeah, it's an emergency quarterback situation, which is helpful.
But the only difference is not a practice squad guy.
Yeah.
He's got it. You have to carry 3 quarterbacks if you want to have the emergency status, that's fine. I think you'll see more of that now as teams hit the postseason. I mean, San Francisco could have done that, chose not to. They didn't elevate their guy on game day. Hit us up with your thoughts. You can join us in the chat on YouTube or on Twitter. Just search out OutKick. Coming up, Power 5 conferences, and we've got the payouts. That's all straight ahead in hour number 2 of Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway. Glad you're with us across the OutKick Network. Hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. 6th and Peabody, our location. Coming up in a little over an hour, George Savaricas from the Golf Channel and ESPN joins us. We'll be recapping what was a phenomenal tournament and Brooks Koepka's 5th major, 3rd PGA championship. Meanwhile, there's a new name on the block in Michael Block, and the PGA professional at your local country club out in California had a hole-in-one on 15 that will not soon be forgotten, plus Power 5 conference payouts and more. Chad, the NFL's investigating more gambling violations. This comes on the heels of, what was it, a month and a half ago, of more suspensions, 5 players specifically. And this is going to continue until, word gets around that the NFL is serious about all of this. And this is all being reported through the apps, through the sports apps. And Pro Football Talk, citing ESPN.com, says that they're investigating a new wave of potential violations of its gambling policy. And, it's a minimum of 1 year if you bet on pro football. And it's at least 6 games if it's anything other than football while you're on team property. So, look, I know that the agents were explicitly told, tell your guys to cool it. Teams have to be addressing this with players as they arrive for OTAs. I think 20 teams started OTAs this week for veterans. Meanwhile, I'm also sure it's a hot-button topic at the NFL owners' meetings this week, just taking place up in Minneapolis. Point being, it's a league that profits a ton off of sports wagering and betting apps. And the penalties are going to go to the players or anyone involved with the organization, not the actual league or the owners who are raking in the cash on this. They just want the perception to be that everything's on the up and up. And so do the apps, by the way. They also want that because they want to be involved as the official betting side of any league. Insert your name here. Any team. Teams can have their own betting services. Team up with them. This is about the quote-unquote integrity of the sport. But, if you've done this in the last month and a half or 2 months, or even going back to the end of last season, you're caught and there's nothing you can do to change the outcome if you're going to be reported by the wagering services.
It depends on how many more people are suspended and how much more they find out about this. But there will come a point in time where the NFL will have to decide what's more important, profit or optics, because they are taking so much money from these sites. And at some point, if you continue to penalize players in your league with these big-time suspensions and fines and everything else, and it's not getting across, and you're having to do it over and over and over again, and you don't get to a point where just no one's getting popped for these things anymore, then they're going to have to decide whether or not they pull the plug on these partnerships, cost themselves millions of dollars or not. And I don't think we're close to that right now based on the number of players who have been suspended. But if they're continuing to investigate more and more players with this, we may reach that point in time where they have to seriously take a look in the mirror and say, even if we don't really think that our sponsorship of these online sports wagering companies has any bearing on what's going on with our players, we need to stop it because we look like the biggest hypocrites in the world right now when we are slamming the book down in the faces of these players and continue to take millions from these companies. We may get to that point in time.
Good.
I don't know that we will. Money rules all in the NFL, and they're making a lot of money with these companies, so they'll continue to do that in the meantime.
That's also why they're likely to vote through the Thursday Night Football flex scheduling that was 2 votes shy. There were two owners who abstained on the last vote, the last spring meeting. The other vote they've tabled until tomorrow is the 25-yard line rule. It's the college rule. If you fair catch a kickoff inside the 25, you automatically get the ball at the 25. I don't think that passes tomorrow. I think that'll be tabled personally because special teams coaches are vocal about not loving this. They hate it. Players too. But the one I do think passes is the Thursday Night Football flex package where you can technically, if you're a good team late in the season and you're involved in a showdown with another good team, and it's a week where you have 2 losing teams playing for nothing on Thursday Night Football for Amazon Prime, they're going to flex you for a second time. You could potentially play 2 games on Thursday night, not just 1. And again, they were 2 votes shy in March, and 2 owners refused to vote. So Roger Goodell tabled it until this week. We'll let you know if that vote comes down today. So far, no, but that's happening this week at some point. Al Michaels certainly wants better matchups. And by the way, this would be for weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17 across the schedule. Games 14 through 17 for your team, because this is about making sure you have eyeballs on the product late in November and all through December.
In exclusive windows.
Exclusive windows against good football teams, good against good. Amazon added the Black Friday game. They get the Jets and the Dolphins. They get Aaron Rodgers exclusive on Amazon Prime on Black Friday. They are paying more money. They're paying $1 billion already for the TNF package. They want better games. Just ask Al Michaels, which Pat McAfee did on his podcast.
Whenever people said that you seemed like you weren't as interested in these games last year, I assume that pissed you off.
I thought a lot of people didn't understand what was going on. I thought that I have a great feel, I think, since as a 6-year-old, watching games, being a fan, I can feel where a game is. And I'm not going to oversell a game to you. That's wrong. I can't come on the air yelling and hollering and screaming. Where do you go from there? And people expect me to be in rhythm with the game. And I've had a lot of talks with like Jim Nantz and Joe Buck and my brethren about this too. Where is the game? You know, I've always said, in a way, the game is the melody, and you provide the lyrics. And if the lyrics don't match the melody, it sounds cacophonous. It sounds like, what? What is that? The great thing is, as a fan, I can feel where the game is. I can feel what the fan feels. And I'm just trying to stay in sync with that and reflect that. It's just a matter of the games. A lot of the games we had weren't very good. So if I didn't sound excited, if I sounded too excited, people would go, oh, he's just trying to sell this crap. No, can't do that. And I won't do that. And, I think that's been my MO for almost 4 decades now.
So I love the honesty, and I appreciate the candor. Al Michaels wasn't himself last year. Just point blank. Didn't sound like Al Michaels was having any fun and wanted no part of the Thursday Night Football package. It's more than just selling a game. I'm talking first quarter. When it's a tight ball game or a decent matchup, I didn't think Al Michaels brought it NBC style. Maybe we get more of that this year. But there was more than just a bad schedule that dictated what we saw from the booth.
Cacophonous is a great word that needs to be used more often, first off. So well done using that word there, Al. Not even just first quarter. He wasn't himself in the pregame hit when they went live to him and Kirk Herbstreit. He was completely muted the entire time. So this is more than just having bad games. Now, I agree with him. You don't want to be over the top, late in a game that's not great, treating it like it's the Super Bowl and yelling. But Al Michaels hinted that. That's not what he's been in his career. He's not a screamer. He's not a guy who's going to get overly excited. He's very good, and he's a great technician at what he does, a play-by-play guy. And most of the good ones are like that. He mentioned Joe Buck, Jim Nantz. Those are 2 guys who aren't big yelling and screaming guys. They're not Gus Johnson when they're calling a game. They're going to be more with the whatever's happening and calm during the call of it. But there's a difference between calm and sedated. And I think that there were parts of Al Michaels that seemed sedated a year ago when he was calling game. And he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I look up to the guy, but it sounded different. Hutton, it sounded so different. We were having this conversation. It sounded to me like the audio levels were different on Prime as opposed to NBC.
Yeah.
Everything sounded quiet. Even Kirk Herbstreit, it's like their audio levels weren't boosted enough to where everything sounded calm as opposed to the Al Michaels you would hear on NBC on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, it was just very neutral and bland. It didn't have that same pop to an Al Michaels broadcast. Let's just handful of games in September on Thursday night this year. Minnesota at Philadelphia is their first Thursday Night Football game on Amazon, on Prime Video. That's in Philly. It's a no-brainer. Let's see, Week 3, New York at San Francisco. And Week 4, Detroit at Green Bay. Those are the that's the September slate of Thursday night football. Of course, they kick off the season on Thursday night, but that's an NBC package.
And we got people in the YouTube chat saying, well, he got stuck on some brutal matchups. I understand that. And if you're Al Michaels, you've called Super Bowls, you've called Sunday Night Football, you've called the Miracle on Ice, for God's sakes. You've called all these major events throughout your career.
And blowouts.
But here's also what I'm not pushing Al Michaels to retirement. But if you're going to be so bitter about calling NFL games in an exclusive window on Thursday night, and just because the matchup isn't great that you're calling it, that you're going to be sedated on air and not really sound like you're giving it your all, then maybe that's the sign that you should let someone else take over and do it, because you're still calling NFL games. That is the pinnacle. That is the top of the top in an exclusive window. So I do think you might, it's okay to fake it a little bit more than you did at times a year ago for those games. You don't want to take a nap during the broadcast, and that's what it sounded like at times with Al Michaels and Herb Street. I admire the honesty. I appreciate it. We all understand what you're saying. But if you've reached a point in your career where you've done so much that you are so mad that you have to call an NFL game of all things that doesn't feature two of the top teams in the league on a Thursday night, then maybe it's time for you to let someone else step in and do it.
Well, he called a playoff game and was much more energized whenever he called the wild card game on NBC, which was predetermined too. That was last season. He also knows his audience was cut in half. And that's why they're going to add the flex games in, is to give a boost, especially down the stretch in November and December, to try to give a jolt to the overall audience and that's right in the heart of the Black Friday game and that whole schedule, week 14 through 18. So I'm expecting, or week 17 is when the last Thursday night game can be. Fans will know 15 days prior. If you're traveling in, you'll know, every fan of each team that's getting flex will know 15 days prior if you're playing 3 days earlier, on time, or possibly a day later on the Monday night flex, which is also possible, which the NFL already has discretion over. Chad, Brittany Griner played in 2 games so far, Friday and then again yesterday. The Mercury lost to the Sparks on Friday and to the Sky yesterday. I know you were keeping up with both of these scores.
My fantasy WNBA team did very poorly yesterday, so I was watching all these to make sure. I got to look at some trades at small forward with my fantasy team.
Vanessa Nygaard is the head coach for the Mercury. Watching the highlights on SportsCenter, that's how I know that this game took place in the WNBA. You would have thought it was a packed house. And by the way, the Sparks, just for reference, average about 5,000. This is last year's attendance. They averaged about 5,000 fans per game in LA. The Mercury last year averaged 8,000, and they had over 10,000 yesterday. And Vanessa Nygaard isn't happy with the attendance based on what she expected for Griner's return to Phoenix.
I mean, it was great, but like honestly, come on, LA. Like we didn't sell out the arena for BG. Like I expected more, to be honest, right? Like it was great, it was loud, but how was it not a sellout? How was it not a sellout?
Well, it wasn't a sellout because even liberals don't like the WNBA. And that was what she was getting at. L.A.? Come on, L.A. BG's return?
Well, they had a better
attendance. How's this not a sellout?
Normal.
There's so many people here that have supported her, and how do we not sell it out? It's because the WNBA is not gaining a lot of traction. I just needed to answer the question for her. That was as simple way as I could put it.
I'm with Dan.
Take your politics aside and look at it and say, well, this is an area where we should have a lot of people going to a WNBA game to support Brittany Griner. But the bottom line is, even those people don't like the WNBA.
No.
They'd rather watch the Lakers lose in 4 to the Nuggets.
Same. Chad, I'm going to miss watching Carmelo Anthony. I'm with Dan Dakich. I had no idea that he wasn't already retired.
When was the last time he played? 2 years ago?
His last stat line's from 2022, so it was the 21-22 season then, is what that would mean. But he's officially retired after 19 seasons, drafted in 2003, and he's the 9th or 10th. He's the 9th leading scorer in league history. And, I mean, the list ahead of him is a who's who, as you would expect, but he finishes with 28,289 points. 10-time NBA All-Star, 6-time All-NBA, and again, ninth most points. College basketball champion, Olympian, and gold medalist. He's a 75th anniversary team member. Melo. Legit career, man.
Yeah, legit. No championships. One of those guys that's a little bit difficult for me to put in the pantheon of all-time greats. Great individual player. I don't know that he affected winning to a level that you'd want to see with a top 10 scorer all time for his teams. He was a bit of a vacuum, right? You throw it into him, he would eat the ball. I mean, there wasn't a lot going on around him. Everything orbited around Carmelo Anthony, but he wasn't giving it up that often. But a great player, great offensive player. The most respect I have for Carmelo Anthony was he was a true star for those Olympic teams.
Yeah.
The gold medal winning team, one of them, I believe he was the leading scorer of a team with Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and others. Key part of at least one of those gold medals. So that's what I'll remember Carmelo Anthony for, maybe more than anything else.
Aside from the Knicks, I mean, he played with Dwayne Wade and LeBron. He played with Kobe. Career history: Nuggets, Knicks, Thunder, Rockets, Blazers, Lakers.
He's a great player.
Yeah. And again, I had no idea that he wasn't already officially retired, but Hall of Famer, and props on the career. Brandon Miller, you think it's a smokescreen? I think it's a smokescreen that he's out of shape. I'm not buying that Brandon Miller from Bama is out of shape going into the draft we've known for a year that he's going to the draft. The time is now. And I can't help but think the scouts that are a little behind the top 5 are putting out there that he's not that impressive right now.
He seems very serious about his basketball. Everything I know about him, so I don't buy that he's completely out of shape or anything. Do I buy that he's been a bad interview for a couple teams? Maybe. I mean, that's possible that they're getting legitimate information that he didn't interview well with a few teams. Would I be shocked if he wasn't a top 3 or 4 pick? Absolutely. He's going to go top 3 or 4, maybe number 2 overall. But if he lasts to 5, I will be completely stunned. And then we'll look back on this story and say, well, there was some legitimacy to it, that he really was bombing the pre-draft process. If he falls to that, I don't think he's going to. I think the likely destination is Charlotte at number 2.
It's Charlotte, and then what? Portland is the 3rd pick, I believe. He's not making it past 3.
I don't think so.
And
either.
also, I was trying to think about it. Like, with his frame, how difficult is it to get out of shape in the middle of May from the end of March? We're talking 6 weeks.
He's got such a high basketball IQ. You don't get to that level of IQ without playing all the time. Yeah. I just don't see Brandon Miller losing to San Diego State in the Sweet 16 and going to a buffet for the next 2 months and not playing a lot of basketball.
Me either.
Naturally, he's going to be playing enough pickup or something to where he's not going to completely fall out of shape.
Yeah.
I don't buy that part of it. I could buy, some people had a problem with his interview or maybe how he answered questions about the Alabama situation.
Yep.
I think it's one that if you're interviewing him and you're a team and you get a very lawyerly answer to those questions and he's not going into detail and just a lot of I just want to move on type stuff, and it's supposed to be an intimate one-on-one team that may draft you conversation, I'm willing to bet that's what Brandon Miller's been told to do with teams, and I could see how that would strike a team the wrong way. And then that would lead to them reporting to someone in the media and saying, not a good interview, didn't like him, didn't come across as authentic. I think that may have been part of it.
But also, if I'm Portland or Houston, Orlando, and I don't want the G League guy or the overtime elite player, I'm floating this out there that he's not that impressive, just trying to scare people off.
And let me also say about the interview, as poorly as Alabama handled that situation, there's nothing that has happened that would stop me from drafting him.
Yeah.
If I were a team in need of a great player. Because of his talent.
And that's why we said we would vote for him for Player of the Year.
You look into it, but he wasn't charged with anything.
Right.
He handled it poorly. Mainly, though, it was Nate Oates and the university that handled everything poorly. And he was more of a byproduct of that he was out on the court the entire time. So I wouldn't have an issue with that if I'm an NBA team.
The Pac-12 making headway on a new media deal. We've got further details there, plus the conference payouts for the Power 5. They have and the have-nots. That's next right here on Hot Mic. Stay with us.
So Jake Bird is a reliever for one of the worst teams in baseball, the Colorado Rockies, who are just horrible. And apparently this middle reliever who was called up for the called up to the big leagues for the first time this year. So he's toiled and worked his butt off. Decided he was going to pull a little old school, going to date myself, Al Hrabosky, and challenge and act like an idiot on the mound because he got an out. He did that against the Phillies. And in doing so, Bryce Harper took exception and went basically to the Rockies bench and said, let's fight. And I love it. I think it's awesome. I love, I don't know. I just love stuff because in baseball, there's a lot of fake tough guys. There's a lot of fake tough guys who talk the game, and then there's the tough guys are actually the guys that don't talk tough for the most part, like Pedro Martinez or Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan never said anything. He just threw 107 and put it in your ribcage if he didn't like you. Pedro would knock you on your ass at the drop of a dime. But I love that. I love guys like that. I love guys that are real and authentic. And Bryce is clearly a leader. And I since the day I met him I think I met him when he was like 12. It seems like his first year in the big leagues. He's always been a guy who's been vocal, but he plays the game and he's good. And the other stuff is the chromey stuff that's the modern day game and what they love and all the things that go with that. But the guy plays as hard as he can. And I think he gives it everything. And I loved it. I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was a good thing for the Phillies who need a little kick in the ass. And then there was he got ejected. Bird got ejected. Rockies won the game 4-0 to avoid a sweep. But none of that stuff matters. That's kind of the thing that you, I don't know about rally around, but it just cements a guy's position in the clubhouse. Zack Greinke became just the 5th player in Major League history. And please understand the significance of that. There have been, 100 and probably 40 years of organized professional baseball. When somebody does something that only 4 players have ever done, unique is not really the right word. I don't even know what it is. It's excruciatingly rare. But Greinke struck out his 1,000th different career player. So he struck out, only 5 guys have done this. In the list pretty much makes you understand. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Nolan Ryan are the only other players ever to strike out 1,000 different hitters. Not 1,000 hitters, 1,000 different hitters.
And the only guy on that list that he's similar to is Maddux.
Right. Well, and if you know anything about Zach, he's been Maddux-like since he got to the big leagues.
Right.
And he talked about, I think, his approach. Fascinating story too, by the way. And as a father of someone who raised a kid with Asperger's, meeting a professional athlete with Asperger's it's exactly what you expect. The guy is laser focused beyond belief. And as a parent of an Aspie, I met him. Well, I don't know if met him's the right word, but I ran into him at an event in Arizona, and he was exactly what you'd expect. But a phenomenal career. I think probably a Hall of Fame career too.
We thought Johnny Depp received a long-standing ovation. We got details on who just beat him out at Cannes. It's coming up in 25 minutes or so.
It wasn't Amber Heard.
No, it was not. No, it was not.
Spoiler alert.
Chad, another spoiler alert. Power 5 in college athletics is big money. Combined, the Power 5 brought in over $3 billion in 2022 combined. So there are the haves and the have-nots, even with the 5. But as you take a look at the picture, according to USA Today, Big Ten, $845 million. It's $58.8 million per school. $802 million for the SEC, right under $50 million per school. Big 12, rounding out the top 3, between $42 and $45 million per school at $480 total. $617 million for the ACC. That's $41 million per school. And then $580 million for the Pac-12. That's $37 million per school. And they're trying to get at least 31-ish on this new TV contract that's being negotiated currently, which would match what the Big 12 is going to have moving forward. And keep in mind, the Big 12, they're getting this revenue because they're claiming right now, and they should, and they do, Texas and Oklahoma. USC and UCLA also being claimed in this by the Pac-12. We know all 4 of those programs and universities headed elsewhere for their athletic departments, Big Ten and the SEC. Point being, those numbers are going down, and we're going to see the SEC and the Big Ten rise.
Let's show that graphic again if we can, please. I want to look at this. I wish I had a telestrator right now when we did this, because imagine, just for a second, with this graphic and this amount of money, if you took the top 2 conferences and they joined forces in their media negotiations, what that would look like and the leverage the SEC and Big Ten would have. Now, imagine if you took all the Power 5 and joined them together and you were able to trim the fat. You were able to kick out Wake Forest and Vanderbilt and some other programs at the bottom that aren't making as much money in revenue and just take the top, 65 teams, 50 teams, whatever that number is, in all of college football, and you took that out to market. And you took it to the networks and said, you get all of this or you get none of it. And imagine what those 45 to 65 schools could make. Double the NFL. 32 teams NFL. Let's double it to 64 teams in major college football that join their own NFL of college football. And you take it to market with companies. And think about the collective bargaining of those 65 schools, where you can own Saturday and you can in part own at least part of Thursday night, especially as long as Al Michaels is sleeping through Prime Video Thursday night NFL games that no one cares about apparently, including the guy broadcasting the game. You could have multiple Thursday night games of college football. There is a lot more money to be made. There's a lot being made right now. There's a lot less money to be made by the Pac-12. We're about to see that with their negotiation. There's about to be a lot less money made from the Big 12. The Big Ten and the SEC, while they may have plateaued a bit, because I don't think those conferences are going to continue to get what they've gotten in the past alone. But when you combine forces and collectively bargain together, the world of college sports will change dramatically. And those top 60 schools, or whatever the number is, will make so much more money. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before there's a central governing body of college football with those 60 making their own schedules for everyone, having their own media deals. 2 or 3 networks will own all of it. You're then going to have to go to the streamers with everything else that you don't get on broadcast television that all of those companies own. The day is coming where the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big 12, and even the SEC and Big Ten may be no more, because there's just going to be a region of major college football and major college sports that you're a part of.
And I maintained that last year. Whenever I thought this was happening sooner rather than later. It sounds like it's going to take further time. Did you see the report from Pete Thamel over the weekend?
That the deal's not done?
Well, the long-form contract isn't signed. So
they have
the
like
Big
an
Ten.
MOU signed. a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah,
that's the one that's
they're
always
locked
the
in
coach's
with the
contract.
conference. It really comes down to NBC is what I got from this report. So Big Ten and the big networks, CBS, Fox, and NBC. NBC in this package, so you still have Big Noon Kickoff with Fox. Then you have the CBS afternoon game for the Big Ten. And then NBC, the Big Ten Saturday night is how it's being billed. But within the structure of the Big Ten, you could opt out after a certain part of the season, correct me if I'm wrong here, Chad, on playing night games. And that was accepted based on the previous television agreement because the best game was Big Noon Kickoff. And NBC is wanting, it was described as horse trading, is the way Pete Thamel described what Tony Petitti is having to do right now. And it wasn't, I think it came as a surprise that he had to jump in and immediately try to figure out, okay, we're 3 months from the season. Let's figure out how we're going to get this deal signed. And here we've got the season kicking off with those TV deals underway, and there are quote-unquote outstanding issues, some of them being that teams' programs like Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, they don't always want to play on Saturday night. They want the ability to, after a certain time in November, not have to play those games under the lights if they so choose. That's what the previous agreement had, and Kevin Warren signed off on this before the presidents and ADs did. And so it's it's an MOU more than it is a long-form agreement contractually. They're also going to have to pay back some of the networks. According to the report, they're going to pay back nearly $40 million to Fox because Warren delivered NBC the Big Ten football title game in 2026 without full authority to do so. They're going to have to pay $25 million in a deal to pay Fox back for the lost inventory of 2020 with that season and the COVID season. And then tens of millions of dollars on the value of the NBC primetime deal is in flux. And Petitti is trying to wheel and deal with programs in hope of keeping everything together. I think ultimately he will, because it sounds like Ohio State and Penn State specifically have agreed to play ball, so to speak, past that date in mid-November. But this is interesting because if NBC's not all the way on board, and they did release a statement, it was funny, NBC released a statement to ESPN saying, hey, we're negotiating, everything's cool, like, we're going to give it some time, we have faith this is all going to get worked out. But the Big Ten didn't comment. And I think it's in large part due to the fact that the big schools don't want to always have to play at a very specific time based on the way this TV agreement pans out.
And I can understand that if you're those programs, you don't be locked into a night game every week.
Yeah.
You want some flexibility. I look at the partnership between Fox and NBC for something like the USFL as a possible precursor for what we could have moving forward. Talking about collective bargaining and more collaboration amongst different conferences together eventually will be the way, and they'll make more money that way. I think with networks also, Hutton, where they can come together on, all right, you get top choice this week, I get top choice next week, or we can go back and forth on Big Noon Kickoff versus the night game. Sometimes you might have the big night game. There is collaboration like that amongst the networks, but for the most part, it's competition. You're bidding against another network, but you're also talking to that conference about, well, we definitely want this game. We want this. Our primetime slot is 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern. That's where we want the big game. So you're really bidding against, instead of coming together and deciding, let's get this where it works really well for everyone, and we'll pay the premium because we know it's going to be an alternating system to where we all have the game we want. That seems to be the details that were left out of this full deal that they don't have right now. And what type of say the member institutions, i.e. Ohio State, Penn State, any of the programs that feel like they're going to be in a primetime slot too many times, they want to make sure they can get out of that if they need to. But I think all that is going to take more of what we see right now currently from NBC, Peacock, Fox, their streamers on what they do with USFL on a bigger scale with college football.
From college football, and I know basketball doesn't play a factor in many minds, but even Tom Izzo has been vocal about, hey, based on the TV package for hoops in the Big Ten, there's way too many games on streaming packages. and not on,
TV.
However you get your cable channels, right?
Yeah.
He's worried about that. He goes, for our league to continue to grow and evolve in this new era, I think at the very minimum, the veteran coaches should have a direct line of communication, a voice in the conversation. So this all makes sense now based on the reporting from Thamel as to why, like beyond the COVID season, why Kevin Warren ends up being the president of the Chicago Bears and not the commissioner of the Big Ten. Because while he's lauded and propped up for negotiating this TV deal, which, by the way, could still get signed. I mean, and they're still going to make millions upon millions off of this. It may not be $100 million per year based on the initial reports. We'll see. It's going to be close to that. Point being, I think there's a lot of things that were not approved that were signed off on, and Kevin Warren was asked to, hey, why don't you go interview for Chicago if you really want to?
Look, I love streaming, and I love having the option to stream a lot of different things, and live sports included. I watched my nephew's college graduation, couldn't make it, but watched it all online and got to see it in crystal clear HD in a digital format on my big screen TV over the weekend on Saturday morning, which is really cool to do. You can watch a lot of different college sports, not just football and men's basketball, online through different streamers. Mm-hmm. And that's great to have that ability. But sports and live sports, they're not made for digital streaming. It's better on cable. It is better on linear television. It always has been.
Especially for betting.
Always will be. Betting. But also, I'd argue, the old TiVo system. You're recording something, and you go into your recordings and you start a game late. It's better doing it that way and going right into my recordings, starting the game after the fact. If you haven't watched it, fast-forwarding at different parts. Watching it that way is better than on digital streaming. So I get what Tom Izzo's saying. There's a lot of things that are headed to streaming. I understand it, but the bottom line is we had it right on linear TV with sports. There's no need to go away from that, even though everyone wants to prop up their streamers. I understand the business of it, but even the streaming business now is starting to be reset. An example is Ted Sarandos, and there up front, says Netflix is going to start adding advertising. And not just any type of advertising. They're going to do a 30-minute to 1 hour ad that goes in 2-minute increments over the course of what you're watching. You might get a 2-minute ad popping up in the middle of your show, and it's going to be a continuous story on the ad. So you go to another show, you get the next 2 minutes. You get the next 2 minutes somewhere else. So they can charge a premium to an advertiser to piece together almost a television episode or a movie that is an ad. And they don't have to sell to as many sponsors that way. And they're just going to break it down by your own algorithm on what you're watching and put it on different shows that you're watching, and it'll break it up with different parts. That is the future of what's coming, which, Hutton, sounds an awful lot to me like TV, like cable, the way we had it before. We're going in a big circle and reverting back to that being the ideal business model.
Yeah, but so is that watching anything on Netflix or just sports?
Anything you're watching. They're going to go into whatever show you're watching and start placing ads at some point. It's not going to be, 4 ad breaks during an hour-long episode of something. Right. But it might be 1, it might be 2, and then it's going to pop up in the documentary you're watching on Netflix also to go along with the drama or the comedy. But it's going to be one company that breaks up their ads over a longer story.
And then within the sporting realm, anything from Amazon to YouTube is going to sell the ad placements the same way, right? Just like Amazon did last year.
Yeah, sports just aren't ideal on streamers, on digital.
Yeah.
It's great to have that level of inventory where so many things now are on somewhere that you can go watch it. But the biggest sporting events, the games you really want to see, take a poll of people that have both, and I'm willing to bet 85 to 90% of them would prefer to watch it on some form of linear television as opposed to going to streaming to watch it.
Yeah, and in order to do that, so if you have DirecTV, you can download the Paramount app, right? And then through Paramount, because you have DirecTV, you've got some kind of leniency on how long you have that app, right? Am I getting this right on the TV? And that's how you can watch local news through the Paramount app. It's because you're a DirecTV subscriber, for instance. It's all very confusing.
Yeah.
It's almost as confusing as trying to find a Yankees game this week. Chad, you just sent over the the 4 different services to watch the next 5 New York Yankees games?
You have to subscribe to 4 different services. Sunday, Peacock. Monday, day off. Tuesday, Yes Network. Wednesday, Prime Video. Thursday, Yes Network. Friday, Apple TV Plus to watch the Yankees. This is perfect example of confusing the consumer. And everyone going all in on digital streaming now starting to have their hand bitten back, and we're reverting back to cable. I look back and I think, I watch Succession every Sunday night, and I record it on HBO. I have HBO Max, or what it's going to become Max now. It's not just HBO Max, it's called Max. I have that streaming service, but what do? I hit record 8 o'clock every Sunday night to watch Succession. And then I start it sometime after it begins, and I watch the episode, and I delete it when it's over with. That feels old school now. That's what's crazy. This was something new 10, 15 years ago that you could do, and now that feels old school. Think about how pure and awesome it is to remember the start of that, where you found out about a show that was good, and you just went to the network it was on and hit record all. And you went back and watched it when a new episode aired. Or you picked up your cable remote, DirecTV, Dish Network, pick your local cable company, whatever it is, and you search for sports that are live. Or you search for where your game was, and you went and found it and watched it on TV. Are we going to get back to that? Not right now.
Well,
but the business is starting to revert back to that a bit.
Yeah, yes. But the difference is...
And it's because of this. People are going to get tired of this, the Yankees example, of having to find so many different things.
Yeah, but if I add up all the subscription services, is it going to add up to $335 a month, which is DirecTV, if you want the HBO and Max and all that?
Well, if there was a way...
If
there was a way to...
At the time, it was $5.99, $7.99. Yeah. Now it's $20, right?
Well, so
the prices keep rising.
Here's what I would do. I would say, just as an exercise with anyone with their home budget, I'll do the same. If you've got cable and streamers, or just you've cut the cord and you got just streamers, whatever it is.
Yep.
Take your total viewing entertainment expenses for the month, cable plus streamers or whatever it is, and then imagine a world where all of it was in one spot. Right? If you had one conglomerate streaming app where you could go to it, or cable that could feature all these things and you'd have inventory to go watch it, what premium would you pay to make it less confusing? $30 more a month? $50 more a month? I'm saying to streamline it the way cable was.
Where it's all on one, you don't have to choose the app. It's
bouncing around
all on
as
one
much.
channel guide.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying what you're paying right now if you haven't cut the cord. I mean, that's what you're willing to pay. Because if you hadn't cut the cord now, it's not an issue for you, right? To get every subscription.
Yeah.
In that one spot.
I have probably 2 streamers simply because I watch 1 or 2 shows that pop up, once or twice a year on that streamer. And I'm not going to it ever. I'm not looking at it other than that. But they've got us. I mean, to an extent, they have me for that reason.
There's a mad race. There's a mad race to get all the inventory, or as much as possible, so when the bubble bursts on a lot of the streaming apps, theirs is not going to.
I think that the mad race was on for content, inventory, all of that, spin. And now I think the mad race is, now how can we turn a profit on this?
Well, but I'm very curious, though. So if you're cutting into your budget, and you're trying to say, okay, all of these apps they're weighing down our monthly budget. Which ones are we going to get rid of? The ones that are requiring the NFL and the SEC are banking on the fact you will not cut them off that list because that's how you're going to watch that product. Meanwhile, Netflix, it's a very interesting game because Netflix doesn't have the live sports.
Nor do they want it.
But the gamble has been, do you want the live sports, specifically football? Don't get it twisted, specifically football. Or do you want just what Netflix provides? And then from there, make your decision on which one you're going to pay. And meanwhile, Netflix keeps raising the price.
Yeah.
But we keep paying. To some point, to some level. Everyone's got a different level they're willing to go to.
They're losing so much money.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is.
So you got to figure it out.
I can tell you who's not losing money. That's Leonardo DiCaprio. And who's losing time, well, that was the director of Leo's new film. because of a standing ovation that outlasted Johnny Depp's standing ovation from last week. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that.
I believe in it.
Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
And people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Chad, coming up, the embarrassment that was the Boston Celtics organization last night in Miami. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel and lend some support to this great radio partner if you're listening this way as well. We appreciate you. Chad, this is right up my alley. Killers of the Flower Moon. I've been waiting on this since reading the book. Scorsese bought the rights to the script like 10 years ago. Got DiCaprio in on it. He's one of the producers.
One of his buddies.
DiCaprio
His
read
muse.
for it. Didn't have to read for it. Let me say this. They said, hey, we want you. Scorsese was like, I want you to do this. And he wanted him to play the good guy. And he ends up, he's going to play the villain, which I can't wait for. So Martin Scorsese received a 9-minute standing ovation this past weekend at the Cannes Film Festival. Yeah, 2 minutes longer than what we said would be an eternity of Johnny Depp standing there. You know, I said, you're done sobbing and crying because of the acknowledgement, and you're like, okay, what are we doing here? It's a little awkward. And it's awkward after 30 seconds to 45 seconds to me. But 9 minutes of a standing ovation.
I see this, and I think that my first question was an important one. That is this just a French thing, to go way too long on the standing ovation? Maybe this is part of their custom. I mean, I've never heard of standing ovations this long. We've had 2 in France in a short amount of time. The French don't know when to sit down and stop applauding.
Hang on. Let me look this up.
I mean, it may be, I'm not saying they invented the standing ovation. I'm saying they don't know how to do it. They just don't know when to sit down. They just keep going. It's crazy to see the thing about standing up for that long and applauding someone.
The longest ovation was with Guillermo del Toro, received a 22-minute long standing ovation.
For what?
Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh, let's say, did he save someone in the theater?
Enough time to watch an episode of Seinfeld, it says.
Perform the Heimlich on someone?
That's a long time to stand and just applaud. Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11 also received a 20-minute standing ovation in 2004. So maybe this is, this is on the downside. No more headlines on standing ovations unless you're going above these two.
I wonder if they do like breakdowns of the expectation. If you can bet on the length of the standing ovation a film will get at Cannes, if there's a betting market in Europe for that, because they just know some of these things are going to get enormously long standing O's.
Killers of the Flower Moon out this fall.
Out on Apple TV Plus. Well, it'll be in theaters too, right?
Yeah, but you can watch it exclusively on Apple TV while it's in theaters if you're a subscriber.
That's one I might want to see in theaters.
I agree.
With
True story.
Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1, Indiana Jones.
Which is not getting good reviews.
The one I read from the New York Times is pretty good. They said they delivered on nostalgia, and it's way better than the last one. But it's pretty cookie cutter.
That's a pretty low bar, though.
Yeah. But
I want it to be good. I'll let you watch it and tell me.
Not great reviews, but the 2 reviews I read are not bad. Just not great.
Also not great. In fact, awful. The Celtics. Our take on how bad and our reaction to the loss next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Monday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. From 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Streaming live right now, OutKick.com and on YouTube. We hope you'll subscribe to the OutKick channel. By doing so, check out all the shows on demand or live. We're live each day, 3 o'clock Eastern. You can find all the shows for their first broadcast or going back on demand, Chad style. Being able to rewind, fast forward.
On demand, the way to go.
That's right. You've got it.
The way of the mid to late aughts. That's the way to do it. On demand.
You can live like a child in the 90s.
Yeah. Oh, man, how I yearn for the days that, you know, you waited until Thursday night to see the next Seinfeld episode.
Or Nick at Night. Let's just go back ways here.
TGIF.
TGIF.
I mean, Steve Urkel. Somebody had to watch Steve Urkel on a Friday night. That someone was me. Every Friday night.
It reminds me
but you had to wait around for it.
The Key and Peele episode on Urkel. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh, yeah. For those who haven't.
I'll be Googling very soon.
Put that in your algorithm for sure. It's worth it. Chad, we've got plenty to discuss from the PGA Championship and Koepka winning his 5th major. Of course, Michael Block becoming a household name yesterday with the hole-in-one. George Savaricas will join us coming up in about 20 minutes. From ESPN, also from the Golf Channel with his coverage. Really looking forward to that chat and where we go from here based on what we've seen from Koepka and the Live Tour competing with the PGA. We're going to have a lot of time, it seems, to just really hone in on what Miami and the Heat are doing so well, because Game 1 of the NBA Finals is June 1st. That's a week from Thursday. And right now, we are on the verge of seeing 2 sweeps. The Lakers will try to avoid elimination tonight as they host Denver. Meanwhile, tomorrow, I mean, based on the way the Boston Celtics quit last night, I don't think they're lasting for a Game 5 back in Boston. What did you make of the way the Celtics played? And there are times when I see people tweet, oh, this team or this player, they just quit. And there is some gray area to it. Last night, there was no gray area. Boston threw in the towel, and they did it right after Game 2. I mean, by the end of the first quarter, that game was over. And this is not just the number 2 seed against the 8 seed. This is by far, when both series started, the betting favorite to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy, to win the title, not just the Eastern Conference. And they are getting boat raced last night by the 8 seed Miami Heat.
Magic Johnson said it very well in his tweet about a proud Celtics franchise. And I would say Magic Johnson knows quite a bit about the Boston Celtics with his rivalry with them with the Los Angeles Lakers. And he tweeted, in my 44 years of being associated with the NBA, I never thought I'd see a Boston Celtics team, a franchise with 17 championships, quit. I know Celtics fans all over the world must be disgusted and devastated. The Miami Heat blew them out 128-102 in Game 3. Now, some may say, well, that's Magic Johnson taking an opportunity to troll the Celtics. I disagree. He's not lying when he says that. There is a responsibility with certain franchises across pro sports that when you put on the uniform, it should mean something more based on their history and based on the great players who have graced that uniform. The Boston Celtics are absolutely one of those franchises. So to watch them go down like that and quit in the second half is disheartening, and I'm sure Celtics fans would tell anyone that would listen that exact same thing. It was a pathetic performance. It was a pathetic moment to try to talk trash by Grant Williams on Friday night that sparked a big comeback and sparked Jimmy Butler to take over the game and continue to dominate the series. And it begs to ask the question, is there truly a responsibility that comes with a logo or a uniform or a franchise? I think there is with certain teams. And the Boston Celtics are one of those teams. And right now, this is a group that's failing to live up to that. Joel Mazzulla, their head coach, is saying, I failed to get them ready, which I think is a ridiculous thing to say with highly paid professional athletes. But Hutton, it's a problem right now. And the biggest part of the problem may be the Miami Heat are just this good. Now, moving on to the possible finals. I think if you are a fan of the NBA or sports, you need to root for the Denver Nuggets. Why? Denver Nuggets are number 1 seed. They played really well throughout the regular season. The Miami Heat got in through the play-in tournament into this spot.
As did LA.
I don't want to see a scenario where everyone can point to the regular season and say, well, the Miami Heat won the finals, won a championship as a play-in team, so we can rest guys more. We can take it less serious. We're going to have the guys healthy and ready to go at the end of the year. And as long as we get there, we got a shot at the championship because the regular season doesn't matter. I don't think that helps the NBA.
Well, we're already saying that.
I don't want to see them win a title.
But
we've yet to see a play-in team win the title. We've never seen an 8 seed win a title in anything. I don't think they've ever won two series.
But I mean, the regular season doesn't matter.
Well, it should though. That's the problem I have with it.
But it hasn't in a long time. It's not just due to the play-in. It's just the mentality of what we've seen with the managing the certain players on number of minutes, guys taking nights off, games off that we saw last night. I mean, it looked like load management last night for the Boston Celtics, quite frankly. I think it's a big issue for the NBA that's not going to be fixed by having some mid-season tournament where the winning team of this mid-season tournament they're going to stage, not this upcoming season, but a year from now, is going to be what the winning players get $500,000 each, and they're already pissed off that it's not $1 million because that was originally the proposal. Draymond was saying that the players lost in all of this because they're losing $500,000 on that play-in, not the play-in tournament, the mid-season tournament, where it's going to affect your playoff status. point being, they're trying to find ways to gauge interest. And the way to gauge interest is to build more stars. And unfortunately for the NBA, last night they really lost out because Jason Tatum rose to the occasion in Game 7 against the MVP and Joel Embiid and against James Harden. And then in Game 3, they looked like the 76ers in Game 7. They were done. And that was, I mean, that's the stat. That is the level that we're seeing of the NBA right now. Very unpredictable, very back and forth. The Lakers are the same way, but the difference with the Lakers is they're more consistent to where I don't think that I think they're better than what they are, but at the same time, Chad, the Lakers are not going to throw in the towel the same way, right?
Well, you know why that is?
Because number one, they've got LeBron.
Yes, that's the reason.
But they also have Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis, every other game, puts up 40 and 15.
Yeah.
And he's not doing that on a consistent basis. Again, another star. But with Boston is throttling teams during the regular season, and then it's back and forth during the postseason as well. But I thought the Lakers would compete better than what they are. Not compete, win more. And I don't think they win tonight. It's not for lack of effort. I don't think we see what happened last night. I just simply think it comes down to the Denver Nuggets are just that good. And
fun.
And the Lakers are in a 1-point game in Game 3, and the Nuggets just close them out. When you've got guys who can barely, draw iron for 3 quarters, and they just start draining threes in the fourth. And they end up winning by like 8 points or whatever it was in Game 3. I think the Denver Nuggets close it out tonight, but for different reasons. I think the Miami Heat have already closed it out based on the way the Boston Celtics played last night in Game 3.
Hutton, we have NFL news breaking. Adam Schefter flexing for Thursday Night Football just passed 24-8. Would you like to hear the 8 teams that voted against?
Well, it took 24 to pass, so they got the 2 votes they needed.
The 8 teams that voted against it, the Giants, the Jets, the Packers, the Bears, Raiders, Lions, Bengals, and the Steelers all voted against it, but it passes.
Giants, Jets, Packers, Bears, Raiders, Steelers.
Lions.
So you've got a lot of old ownership here within this. I'm trying to think of.
I'm trying to get to find the through line with all those franchises as to why they would vote against. You got the 2 New York teams that voted against.
Yeah, and the Jets are already playing a Black Friday game plus a Thursday game, so they've already got 2 short weeks built in based on that.
Yeah.
So I understand it. This is more than just this year, though. I mean, this is
it's got to be more forward thinking than just what they're looking at this season.
And why this will be unfair to a team or teams. Keep in mind, this is not every single week. And the games that will be flex can only come from the pod of games that are noon Central, 1 Eastern kickoffs for the game that's 15 days away. And it's for weeks 14 through 17. Week 17 of 18, that's the final game for Thursday Night Football. They're going to flex throughout the entire year. So ESPN and NBC, Sunday night and Monday Night Football, from weeks 5 to week 11, those 2 networks can each choose 2 different weeks, if they want to flex a game from the noon/1 p.m. Eastern kickoff time into their primetime slot. After week 11, week 12, which is right around Thanksgiving, or right before, they will then divert that to the NFL, where the NFL can choose, based on however they're going to do this, it'll be at the behest of the networks, they can then flex games into a better primetime slot, removing a game where you have 2 teams with losing records. And they're basically doing the same thing for Thursday Night Football. It's just coming later in the year. But this is still going to have some type of impact. Short weeks, quick turnaround, and it's not going to be fair to the players or the team. And it's certainly, I mean, they don't give a damn about the fans. The NFL cares about the $1 billion coming in.
Well, they care in this regard, I think.
I'm talking about the fans that have chosen to Either
go to games.
Go to games.
Yeah, no, they don't care about that.
From picking your 1 game or 2 games per year, you now don't know if you're in November, December, or early January. I'm trying to figure out when the last Thursday game would be, December. You don't know if your game is going to be moved up 3 days, if it's going to be on time, if it's going to be moved back 3 hours or back 24 hours. Until 15 days out.
I would argue this is a move for the fans. I mean, they're looking at who are we going to affect a bigger number of.
It's a move for Amazon.
Yeah, but it's also a move for me. I don't want to sit through some of these games. If you give me the option of a Thursday night package that has a better game, that you flex into one that matters as opposed to what we've been seeing, all of those viewers at home that like football, that's a win for them. It's a loss for the individual teams that don't want to have to be moved to Thursday night. It's a loss for the organization that doesn't want to have to do that. And yes, it's a loss for the 60 to 80,000 people that were planning to go to that game. Now they have to change their plans. But my argument is the greater number of fans are affected by a better TV game, an exclusive window. So in that regards, the NFL is picking the fan.
Well, why didn't they do it before the $1 billion TV package came into play?
Well, I don't care how they got to it. I'm saying
that's what
this goes to the fans.
But it has nothing to do with the fans.
Would you not argue though the fans win? The more fans. How many fans matter? 60 that go?
No.
Or the 3 million that watch on TV?
We're agreeing. We're just saying it different. It took $1 billion per annual year contract to come into play before the NFL even considered having a team play twice on Thursday Night Football.
Sure, but it took to get the 24 owners to do it, the thought of this $1 billion plan could go away.
So
if they don't get what they want.
Here's what really happened behind the scenes. They did vote on this in March. They said they took a straw poll. The reason why they said they took a poll and took a temperature of the room instead of a vote is because it failed. And then they tabled it to this week. And 2 owners abstained from voting, and they had I believe 6 others or 8 others who voted no. And I think the same owners voted no, and Goodell went behind the scenes and politicked his way into flipping those owners. Did it say if anyone abstained from voting today?
I don't think so. Those were 8, right? We counted to 8.
Yeah, so they needed 24 to pass, and they got 24. So Goodell,
it was all of them voted.
Goodell
it was 24 to 8. There was no one abstained.
Yeah, it's intriguing because I'm thinking about what could be lobbied, and this will never be, we'll never know. But so Detroit, I immediately thought when I heard that Detroit was one that voted no back in March, I'm like, oh, Goodell go behind the scenes, like, you want the draft? Or Green Bay, you want the draft? Vote.
Then come on our side on those.
Didn't happen. But I would love to know what the conversations were like behind the scenes.
I'm sure some of that definitely goes on. Allie on the YouTube chat says, soon they're going to move all concerts to Amazon too. Let Ticketmaster prosper and screw the in-person fans. This does what you're bringing up about the fans that are getting screwed are the season ticket holders or the common fan that actually wants to go watch their team in person that's trying to plan a schedule
let's
in the fall. And it's a bigger question that I'll bring up that I think needs to be asked is there any live experience that's sacred anymore? And we're seeing more and more of that with sports, right? $1 billion media rights package. While that helps the greater number of fans that aren't going to the game live to watch it, that now they can watch the better games and a better experience at home, it does take away from the live viewing experience for fans. And I feel like there's fewer and fewer. We're probably going to revert back, just like we're kind of reverting back to cable now eventually, as seeing that as the best business model.
Well,
maybe we revert back to wanting more connection with a live event. Movie theaters are in trouble, right? Going and watching a film live is different from Killers of the Flower Moon. We're saying we might want to go see it in the theater. Most people that have Apple TV Plus, they're not going to the theater. They're going to watch it exclusively at home on that service. One of the reasons they're paying for it, right? But the more and more of these things that go away, the less and less I like it.
But the ticket prices go up and up. And there are a couple of markets that voted yes on this that are about to charge PSL prices again. If you want to have the right to have a seat at the new stadium here in town, you got to pay $25,000 if you want the club level up front to just have the right to then buy the annual ticket. They're saying you only need 15 days notice. They're telling their paying customers you need 15 days. The NFL is basically pulling a Netflix. They're raising the subscription price, and they're saying, okay,
giving you less.
Dare you to cancel your subscription. And we won't. We'll continue to consume the NFL. The NFL is fail-proof.
It's the one thing I think in media, live sports in general, but especially the NFL, that it's gold. If you have that, you know people that seek it out are going to pay and find a way to get it.
But just consider for a moment, Chad, how busy you are coaching right now 2 different softball teams. Right? And you're going to the game on Sunday. And all of a sudden, you're going to the game Thursday night. And that's the game that you purchased
I'm not.
6 months ago.
I'm out. I'll have to find someone to sell my ticket to, but odds are you're just going to give them away. And you're going to lose out on that.
And the comparison to like the college football package is different. The college football package, CBS, you didn't know the 2:30, 3:30 window, but you would find that out, and you knew your game was going to be on Saturday.
Yeah, and you still get it.
You just didn't know the kickoff
You
time.
get it 12 days in advance. The way college football works.
Yeah.
You'll find out the Monday a week out, 12 days before that game to know your plans.
I'm all for better matchups on Thursday night. I want to start, though, with Sunday night and Monday night, personally. And then Thursday night, I was totally fine with the setup where every team had to play that. That is a huge advantage, especially if you're coming off of a game or you're going into a week. If you get flex and you get an extra mini bye from like Friday, Saturday, Sunday off to rest up for your next opponent, that is an advantage. Right now, it's not predetermined based on the way the scheduling makers have it set currently.
The NFL has also announced that Green Bay will host the 2025 NFL Draft. That news just coming down as well.
So it'll be Detroit, then Green Bay.
Good timing there, Hutton, talking about Green Bay.
Detroit, then Green Bay.
Hey, you want this draft, you got to play ball. Well, Green Bay,
they voted no.
Their draft. They voted no, but they still get their draft.
Yeah. So the Lions also voted no. No Thursday night, but you'll take it and like it. Chad, coming up, PGA Championship reaction. George Savaricas is about to join us, covers pro golf for the Golf Channel, ESPN, and other outlets. Can't wait to chat about Koepka and the story from yesterday on 15 with the hole-in-one from Michael Block. Plus, what happened to Jon Rahm? He was supposed to be a guy who just was great on the tough conditions. It got really tough on last Thursday. And
he became a baby, too.
Yeah, well, let's dive in on that. That's next on Hot Mic.
Big old baby.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
And people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying, even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back, and if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Glad you're with us for Hot Mic across the OutKick Network. Hutton Withrow with you. Led off today's show discussing the PGA Championship. Brooks Koepka winning his 5th major, his 3rd PGA. And then Michael Block. Man, have a week, man. The hole-in-one on 15 capped it off, but he was the storyline. Incredible.
Awesome.
And he's going to be remembered as the country club pro that, I mean, not just a hole-in-one, a swish.
The Roy McIlroy of this year's PGA Championship, to steal a character from a great Kevin Costner film.
George Savaricas joins us. He was there at Oak Hill for the coverage of ESPN Plus with Golf Channel and more. George, thank you for the time, man. Hope things are well.
Yeah, everything's good on my end. Great to be on with you guys.
Describe what we saw from Michael Block. How do you put it into frame and describe the week that was?
It just doesn't happen. I mean, you have 20 club pros that make it every year. I was on the call 3 weeks ago. They have the Club Pro National Championship. And normally of that 20, maybe one makes the cut and they'll finish T65, and it's a complete afterthought. And then you have a guy next to the winner who's kind of getting the hardware and the designation of low club pro, but it's kind of a cute secondary story that you really have to be in the weeds as a golf fan to even know happens. Like, I bet for a lot of people, they didn't even really realize club pros played that week. You just hear about like the 8 to 10 biggest names in professional golf. Those are the guys battling it out over the weekend. So for Michael to shoot 70 to start, I think once he was at even in the Saturday, it was okay. Maybe this guy is staying power, but it's a cute story and he's going to fade playing with Justin Rose. And then he shoots 70 again. It's like, all right, he's with Rory, but there's no way he's going to finish top 15 and be exempt into next year's PGA Championship. He'll probably fade. So to follow that up with the hole-in-one, I mean, he was trying to become the first club pro to finish top 10 since 1968, just to show what he did was such an outlier to be T15. And I've gotten to know Michael pretty well the last 3 years of calling the Club Pro Championship and played in Pro-Ams with him before. What you see is what you get. I mean, he's as down to earth and easygoing as it gets. And he was telling me that he was all pumped up because he's playing in final stage qualifying for the Open and was exempt into that based on how he did last year in this Club Pro event. So he's going with a bunch of buddies to Scotland, playing in this qualifier July 4th. He was saying, I'm 46. This might be the last chance I ever have to even be competitive. And that was 2 weeks before this week. So now to have this dream week come together where you're top 15 at the PGA Championship, you steal everyone's hearts and headlines. You're playing at Colonial this coming week in the PGA Tour, RBC Canadian Open a couple weeks after that. He's in sectional qualifying for the U.S. Open. His 18-year-old son, Dylan, also made it to U.S. Open sectional qualifying, so they're supposed to do that together. It's really a dream week that's spinning into kind of a dream year for Michael.
Were you at the pub with him Saturday night?
I was not. I wish I had the invite. I would have loved to grab a seat next to him. He claimed that he wasn't at the pub; he was near the pub.
Oh,
so that. But I can only imagine what the tab was like last night. That would have been a better night to ride his coattails after the A's.
The last time he's gonna have to buy a beer at any club.
Well, we all saw the video of him taking the call from the Colonial about being invited with the exemption next week, and he made the comment that got me a little bit excited. He said, all the people I talked to said this course sets up well for a club pro like myself, and I'm thinking, is this going to be just a one shining moment, or will we hear from him again at some point? I know the odds are that'll be the one shining moment. But what do you think about that? The chance that he could finish top 20 again. I'm not saying win, but in any tournament that he's going to be exempt for now moving forward.
Yeah, like you knee-jerk reaction as you say, that was an amazing week. But he played the American Express Championship earlier. I mean, he's been a 10-time Southern California PGA Section Player of the Year. So the guy's won. I don't want to call him like the Crash Davis of Southern California golf, but I mean, he's won a ton of club pro events. That got him exempt into the PGA Tour stop in the California desert. He shot 65 the first round, was T7, and then backed that up with a 71 and was top 30 and then faded on Saturday, ultimately missed the cut. So he's shown some flashes where he hits it far. He's got a decent amount of game. I wouldn't be shocked if he made the cut. I mean, if you're a betting man, he's more likely to miss it than make it. I think realistically, his best play longer term, Rob Labritz was a long-time club pro, made the run at the PGA Tour Champions. That's like every club pro or scratch golfer's dream is when I turn 50, this could happen. For most guys who just laugh and say, okay, you have no chance. You're going up against Fred Couples who beat his age last year and shot 60 and won. Like those guys are insanely good. I actually do think Michael could be a reasonable story where if he keeps playing, I don't know, 3 or 4 events a year, stays sharp, he could make a run at the PGA Tour Champions. I think that's realistic.
Brooks Koepka has won a few tournaments in his life, 5 majors to be exact now. When you watch his game, George, what has been the big change? Has it been physical, getting over some of the injuries that he's had? Has it been mental? Combination of both. But since he left for LIV in a time where when you watch the documentary and see he was going through some things mentally in his game, that suddenly has changed with the Masters and now this performance. Where do you see the big change?
I think a lot of it has to do with health. And then the other subplot was him reuniting with his old swing coach, Claude Harmon. They didn't talk for 2 years and then got together last July. And Brooks at the time said, I think I can win more majors. So that was the goal that he set out. They kind of put whatever misgivings they had by the wayside. And that's when he rededicated himself to get back to where he was 2017 to 2019. When I was working for ESPN Plus last week, we had a stat from 2017 to 19, and final rounds, the scoring average was 69.3. Since then, it had been 72. So you wondered, okay, has he lost the aura of invincibility? Like, a lot of guys have an amazing 2 to 3 year run, and then that's it. Like, Rory won 4 majors in 3 years, 2011 to 14. Hasn't won one since. Jordan Spieth won 3 from 2015 to 17. Hasn't won one since. So that was an easy narrative to throw at Brooks, and one that, I mean, I'd been saying on Golf Channel, maybe he just had an amazing run 2017 to 19. And law averages, like, these things are hard to win. There's only 4 a year, but I think him getting his health back, reuniting with Claude, and the fact that he lost the Masters in what he called a choke, where he said he was playing not to lose it instead of playing to win it. And then you saw Sunday, he goes 3 under the first 4, shuts the door, looks like the Brooks Koepka of old. And now I mean, of course, in the media, he goes from 4 to 5, and you're like, okay, well, could he win 8? Like 10? How far can he get this going? But he's just hardwired differently. Like, he is the best major golfer since Tiger Woods. And you lump Phil Mickelson in that generation, but since, call it like the guys who've come out since 2010, he is the most to anyone. And how he approaches the majors, how he elevates his game, he's starting to separate himself from the rest of the pack. And I think it's more realistic he gets to 6 than Rory gets to 5 or Jordan Spieth gets to 4.
George Savaricas with us. We're recapping the PGA Championship, discussing Brooks Koepka on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. So I know that the questions immediately come out. What did that mean for LIV versus the PGA? Personally, I don't know exactly what it means, because I'm only going to watch Brooks Koepka in the majors, right? Like, I'm not turning on the LIV Tour to watch Brooks Koepka. And certainly not if they're going to a playoff and they're going to play some infomercial. So I don't know what benefits the LIV Tour based on that victory, other than validation, but we already knew those dudes could play.
But I think us 3 collectively knew they could play. But the narrative was, these guys are cashing out. Brooks took it because he was injured last year, and why not de-risk what could be a debilitating injury for his career and take, people are saying the price tag was 100 to 125 million. But a lot of these guys were on the tail end of their career, riding off into sunset and taking the 20, 30, 50, 100 million guaranteed. And you didn't know how seriously they would actually take these events to gear themselves up for majors. I do think it gives them a little more credibility to have a guy who's now the reigning PGA Championship winner. You had him and Phil as the runner-up in the Masters. I think their big issue is that they want world ranking points. The governing bodies don't want to give that to them, and LIV hasn't decided to play the game with 72-hole events to really force the issue on these governing bodies that are the ones that arbiter who gets points. So I think that's where they're stymied right now, is you have these flashes in majors and people see that Brooks can still play. Cameron Smith, Harold Varner, Mito Pereira, but they just haven't been able to get more of a groundswell of widespread acceptance because it still feels like an exhibition. But we know that these guys can use that tour to still peak in majors and play amazing golf.
Jon Rahm did not have a good week and was caught on camera, yelling at a camera crew about, you only get in my face when I had a bad shot or have a bad reaction, and complaining about it. I haven't seen as much of the big baby version of Jon Rahm that we saw last week. What did you make of that?
I mean, Chad, we don't see a lot of it when he's won 4 times and has a major and he's always in contention. So
yeah,
when you have a hand that's dealt against you and you have a 10 and a 6 and dealer has a king showing, then, I mean, your mood changes a little bit. For Jon Rahm, he's a fiery guy. He's always a guy who wins the media center. He's insanely articulate for English being his second language. And the growth that he's had with his game over the years has been impressive. That being said, when guys get upset that a camera's there, it's like, okay, well, that's why you're making 20 to 30 million a year. Because companies like CBS and NBC and ESPN are paying hundreds of millions of dollars to put that camera in your face. And that's why you have all these sponsors covering you, because they want that camera time. So to then, when you're not playing well, be upset that there's a camera there. Eventually, like Bryson used to do that, and we'd roast Bryson for it. Any athlete that does that, I'm like, okay, well, if people are going to be there when you're slipping on the green jacket saying you're going to be the next Seve and one of the greatest Spaniards of all time, then when you're shooting 75 and finishing T50, the camera's going to be there also. So it always.
Well, most guys don't even see it, right? I mean, I'm sure they do, but that's what's so rare about it is the lack of acknowledgement with players on tour of cameras even right around them or right next to them. They're so good and so dialed in, it's like they don't even see the camera right next to them. Clearly, Jon Rahm did, though. That's what stood out to me.
Yeah, no, it was a little bit surprising. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, his reaction. I know he runs hot, though. So if he has a day where he's upset at the conditions and the course, and then you want to blame the easiest thing to do is blame everything external instead of saying I'm playing like crap and just being mad at yourself. So I think it was just one of those moments. I just hope it's not one that is repeated with any regularity going forward, because it's not a great look when you have your superstar, who is a former world number one, just showing a side of him that's not a great look.
George, Ryder Cup captains, Zach Johnson and Luke Donald, how will they handle the Live Tour? Specifically, Zach Johnson and the possibility of having Brooks Koepka. I mean, if I want to win, and I do, I want Brooks Koepka on my team.
And it's completely different because the DP World Tour is tied to the Ryder Cup. So they actually are kind of the governing body that oversees Team Europe. So there's friction with Live and the DP World Tour directly. The PGA Tour does not control the Ryder Cup. It's the PGA of America. There was actually a split when the PGA of America and the PGA Tour split in 1968. They used to control both the Ryder Cup and the World Series of Golf. The PGA of America took the Ryder Cup because it was an afterthought then. The PGA Tour took the World Series of Golf. They thought that was the bigger event. That's like one of the worst trades of all time, just because of how big the Ryder Cup has become. Yeah, seriously.
I didn't know that, yeah.
With the PGA of America being the entity that oversees the U.S. team, it should be the 12 best Americans, regardless of where you play. Like if you were playing the Australasian Tour and were second in the Ryder Cup standings, you should be eligible to play there. So I think Zach Johnson should have, I think Brooks Koepka should be on the Ryder Cup team. He's, I think, second in the points list right now? Unless they change their bylaws, he should be on it, and Dustin Johnson should be in consideration as a captain's pick.
It's tough to nitpick with Jim Nantz. And from the broadcast chair, I just want to get your perspective on this. So they came out of a commercial break and showed the hole-in-one, right? Why did they make it obvious that they were setting it up as taped when you could easily play it back as live, quote unquote? And they had gone away from the coverage to begin with. So the fact that they were showing them at 15, you knew something crazy just happened. And I'm not sure why they chose to tell us it was taped and this just happened previously, minutes ago.
And usually they don't. I mean, they'll try and play it as live or not spoil it for you. They don't want to tip you off. I don't know what the lag was from when it actually happened to when they showed it. Because, I mean, golf viewers are becoming much more savvy and astute, following in real time and then saying, hey, this happened 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes ago. I admittedly was in the airport in Rochester flying back to Austin.
Okay.
So I was watching on a phone, had my AirPods in, was listening to a boarding announcement, and then also listening to the block hole-in-one. So it's a little choppy on my end. But, yeah, I mean, Jim's, I would say, the best in the business. And when I was re-listening to the call, it was like, all right, well, you could tell right when he hit it that this is probably going to be a hole-in-one. And that, I mean, I think you guys would agree, that was the best moment of the week.
Yes.
Bar none.
I think it's the shot of the year.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, and Chad, you said it was like Roy McIlroy. It really was real life Tin Cup.
Except he didn't hit the water 5 times first, right? He just went ahead and hit it in the first time, which was great.
Yeah. But the scenes at his country club. I mean, people slamming beers and chanting blocky, and it looked like it was like you were watching the U.S. in the World Cup or something like that, like the bar reactions. It was insane. So, yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
And everyone can at least relate to, you're thinking about the golf course you've played at. There's always a head pro there. And you're thinking, okay, that guy represents all of them. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about, considering, where he was, where he came from. And I know he's played 20-plus tournaments like this, but nothing.
Well,
and four previous PGAs, I believe.
Rory McIlroy had to go hug him, and he didn't know it went in.
Yeah.
He was still in disbelief. That didn't go in, did it? Because of the nature of how he sunk it, he was in disbelief when people were celebrating, and Rory was giving him the hug. He was in shock, which kind of added to it also.
It was cool to see Rory really embrace the moment and have fun with it and not feel that, okay, I'm above playing with this club pro. Let's say, okay, wow, this is an incredible story. Let's make sure that this guy is comfortable and inside the ropes. This is a round that we will always remember together. As far as Michael playing 24 events, it sounds like a lot. He's 46. If you're Southern California Section Player of the Year, you normally get in the Farmers and the American Express. So you're playing like 2 to 3 a year. So it's basically he plays 2 to 3 a year and then usually misses the cut. So for him to have a week like this, it's not like he had played a full season on the PGA Tour. It's like he had a handful that were just because of what he was doing in his local Southern California PGA section. This week, I mean, we may not see another week like this for 30 plus years. Like to really put it in context, just how surreal this was. This was like a solar eclipse, like lightning in a bottle. For the odds of another, we were celebrating in 2018, Ben Kern, who was another club pro, finished T42. That was like, oh, wow. Like he made the cut and he didn't suck on the weekend. Like he was actually relevant. T15 that cashed almost $300,000. Yeah, it's preposterous. Like if you guys wrote that script and then were pitching it to me, like, oh, we got this amazing concept, this golf pro makes the PGA Championship, finishes T15, I'd be like, all right, that's not even plausible. Like people watching it would be like, this is such a Hollywood ending. This is so lame. He makes a hole-in-one. This would never happen. But that's the beauty in sports, is to have something like that unfold where I have my non-sports fan buddies now texting me about Michael Block. And these guys are allergic to golf, but that story captured their attention.
I wonder if Liv called him.
They already got their roster set for the year, so
no exemptions.
Yeah, but apparently that's what PGA Tour was fast to act. They were able to sneak him into Colonial next week.
George Savaricas has been our guest. Great stuff, man. Thank you for the time and the perspective. Keep up the great work, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Really good. Thank you.
Especially probably the middle of next month, whenever U.S. Open rolls around.
Yeah, sounds great. I'll be at LACC. Enjoyed the chat and look forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, George.
Appreciate you. Yeah, can you imagine? You mentioned the Hollywood script. Imagine if at the end of that script, Liv calls, and then it then turns them down, and then he's. I mean,
a hero again.
That's a hole-in-one for the PGA.
Yeah. You know what? I'd rather just go back to my instructions. At my
I'm gonna go
local country
teach.
club.
I'm gonna go teach.
He says that he gets about 1 bucket of balls in a week because he's so busy with instruction throughout the week.
This may not sound like crazy. He hit that hole-in-one with an iron that's been in his bag since 2014, which is also unheard of on tour, with how much and how picky they are with all of the clubs and all the sponsorships. That's also cool.
Yeah.
Hit us up with your thoughts. You can join us in the chat on YouTube and on Twitter. Just search out OutKick. We hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're there. Coming up, the latest example of a human being literally complaining about anything. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in the land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Chad, there's apparently a TikTok star. I'll say star.
A TikToker?
Yeah, who's...
They call them YouTubers. You have influencers on Instagram. Are they TikTokers? Is that what we're calling them?
Sure. But she's known as Big Curvy Olivia. So this is what she's going for, right?
Use your imagination as to what she looks like.
But she's like...
I'm going to guess she's both big
furious.
and curvy.
She's gone viral for her take that it's discrimination that airlines can't build wider aisles in airplanes in 2023. I mean, she's eating. She's eating to the point where she wants to not be able to fit anywhere, right? But then complain about it. And she's going through aisles where these are the pods. This is like
she's in first class.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is like the legitimate.
This is a wide aisle.
I know. Not
for
her.
This is not a Southwest flight.
It's not a hallway.
And I'm fine with Southwest. That's what I always fly.
Not a hallway, though.
But those are a lot smaller than that.
Yeah. So
I just think you reach look, if you're so fat that you can't maneuver around a plane or a train or a bus or whatever, you just can't travel that way. I don't know how else to do it.
It's like being 7 feet tall. Like you just have to adapt.
There are just certain things that,
Although you can't control how tall you are.
If you're 7 feet tall, you're going to get an Uber XL.
Right.
And hope for the best. You're not going to fit into
California
a Prius
King or whatever. Yeah.
Right? So you got to get things that accommodate yourself. Like, I understand you can't build out and request a bigger plane or fly private or afford to do that, but being 7 foot is something you can't help.
Thank you. Yes. That's the only difference.
Right? Like, if you're grossly obese, and I don't think this woman could move at least, like move around. But if you're that big that you can't fit through an aisle, then don't fly.
Don't for our listening audience.
This with me, like, look,
we're not talking about a defensive tackle here.
I might be 400 pounds one day. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for me.
This isn't Dan Hampton.
I'm telling you, if I'm 300, 400 pounds and I can't fit on an airplane or in the aisles, I'm just not going to probably fly airplanes that much. I'm not going to be on one. I'm just going to not travel.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
these are the sacrifices you make to be that big.
Big curvy Olivia. I mean, BCO. Yeah, she's going for this, so she got what she wanted.
I wonder how much big curvy Olivia makes as a TikToker.
Enough to fly on that.
I don't know that she was flying in one of those pods though. It looks like she was trying to maneuver her way out of the pod area into the.
Maybe
that's the video I want to see is her having to buy the 2 seats that she had to purchase to sit on that plane.
2 pods?
They do make you do that. I got a buddy who's bigger. He always has to buy the 2 seats when he goes on a Southwest flight.
It's not cheap.
No, that would be plenty of motivation for me.
When we return tomorrow, I think the series is over with Denver and LA. I think the Nuggets win tonight. LeBron's ankle.
I said on Friday I thought it'd be a series by the time we got back.
I wanted it to be.
Not going to happen.
I think it's going to be another close game. I just think the Nuggets are just better.
I agree.
Lakers are not going to throw in the towel, though.
Nuggets
not after
are fun.
what we saw from the Celtics last night. Join us tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.